Once you grasp its ideas, you may never think about knowledge, progress, or even the future in the same way again. At its core, the book argues that progress is limitless. Every major breakthrough in science, philosophy, and society stems from one simple fact: problems are solvable. There is no fundamental barrier to knowledge, only unanswered questions waiting to be explored. Deutsch dismantles the idea that we will ever reach a point where everything is known, showing instead that the quest for knowledge is infinite. One of the book's most powerful ideas is that knowledge doesn't merely accumulate, it evolves. Weak explanations are replaced by stronger ones, and this ongoing process fuels scientific discovery, moral progress, and even political freedom. Deutsch emphasizes that this isn't automatic. Civilizations that embrace open-ended inquiry flourish, while those that resist change stagnate. This book forces you to rethink reality. It argues that we are not passive observers of the universe, but active participants shaping its future through our understanding. Whether in physics, democracy, or even art, progress is always possible if we commit to rational thinking and the relentless pursuit of truth. The theory of everything. Some ideas are so powerful that once you understand them, they change the way you see everything: your past, your future, even your place in the universe. The Theory of Everything by Stephen Hawking is one such book. It doesn't just explain the cosmos, it reshapes your understanding of existence itself. Hawking takes us on an extraordinary quest to understand the forces that shape our reality. He unravels the evolution of the cosmos, from the explosive birth of the Big Bang to the formation of galaxies, stars, and planets. But this book isn't just about what happened, it's about why it happened, and what it means for the ultimate fate of the universe. At the heart of Hawking's work is a profound question. Can we find a single theory that explains everything? He explores the two pillars of modern physics: Einstein's theory of relativity, which governs the vast cosmic scale, and quantum mechanics, which rules the microscopic world. These two frameworks, though incredibly successful, seem to contradict each other. Bridging this gap is the holy grail of physics, the elusive theory of everything. Hawking breaks down complex ideas with astonishing clarity, making the vast mysteries of black holes, space-time, and quantum uncertainty feel within reach. He challenges us to rethink concepts like the nature of time, suggesting that it might not be as linear or absolute as we assume. He also explores the possibility of a multiverse, where infinite versions of reality could coexist beyond our perception. But what makes the Theory of Everything truly transformative is not just its scientific depth, it's the way it forces us to confront our place in the cosmos. Are we insignificant specks in an indifferent universe? Or do we have a role in uncovering its deepest truths? Hawking's work suggests that understanding reality is not just a pursuit for scientists, it's a pursuit for all of us. Because once you grasp the grand design of the universe, the way you see your own existence will never be the same again. The Selfish Gene, Richard Dawkins's. The Selfish Gene is a book that changes how you see life itself. It doesn't just explain evolution, it redefines it, shifting the focus from species and individuals to something far more fundamental: genes. Dawkins argues that genes, not organisms, are the true driving force of evolution. Life is not designed for the survival of the fittest individual, but for the replication of the most successful genes. Every trait, instinct, and behavior we see in nature exists because it has helped genes persist across generations. This idea transforms our understanding of why creatures behave the way they do, from altruism to aggression, cooperation to competition. Even selfless acts, Dawkins explains, often serve the hidden agenda of genetic survival. One of the book's most eye-opening concepts is that evolution is not guided by intention or purpose. Genes do not want to spread. They simply do, through an endless trial and error process where only the most effective replicators endure. This shift in perspective reveals the deep logic behind life's complexity, from the tiniest microbes to human societies. Yet, The Selfish Gene is not a cynical book. In fact, it shows that even in a world driven by genetic competition, cooperation and kindness can emerge as evolutionary strategies. It forces you to question long-held beliefs about identity, purpose, and even free will. Reading this book is like lifting a veil on the hidden mechanics of existence. It is a fundamental, mind-expanding work, one that leaves you seeing life and yourself in an entirely new way. Once you grasp its message, you may never think about nature, evolution, or human behavior the same way again. What It's Like to Be a Bat. This book by Thomas Nagel challenges everything we think we know about consciousness. We assume that science will eventually explain the mind, but Nagel argues that no amount of physical data, no brain scans, no chemical breakdowns, can ever truly capture what it feels like to be another conscious being. And to prove his point, he asks a simple but unsettling question. What is it like to be a bat? Bats navigate the world through echolocation, a form of perception so different from ours that we can only describe it in vague metaphors. No matter how much we study the bat's brain or its behavior, we can never experience the world as a bat does. This, Nagel argues, reveals the limits of a purely scientific, materialist view of consciousness. While we can break down the brain into neurons and signals, there remains an unbridgeable gap between objective facts and subjective experience, what philosophers call qualia. This is the essence of the mind-body problem. How can physical processes give rise to the richness of experience? Nagel's argument raises difficult questions about the nature of thought and perception. If consciousness is more than just computation and chemistry, can it ever be fully explained? Could a machine ever truly think and feel? Or will there always be something missing? And if every conscious being has an inner world that we can never access, what does that mean for how we understand and relate to others? What It's Like to Be a Bat doesn't give us easy answers. Instead, it forces us to confront the fact that consciousness is still one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of existence. Man's search for meaning. When everything is taken from you, your home, your freedom, even your name, what remains? In the depths of suffering, when survival seems impossible, does life still have meaning? Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning is not just a book, it is a testimony to the resilience of the human spirit and a guide to finding purpose even in life's darkest moments. Frankl was not a detached observer of suffering. He was a prisoner in Auschwitz, subjected to unimaginable cruelty and loss. Yet, in the midst of it all, he made a remarkable discovery. Survival was not just about strength or luck. Those who endured longest were often the ones who held on to a sense of purpose, whether it was the memory of a loved one, the dream of unfinished work, or the belief that their suffering had meaning. They had something that kept them going. From this experience, Frankl developed logotherapy, a school of thought that argues meaning is the primary driving force of human life. Unlike Freud's focus on pleasure or Nietzsche's emphasis on power, Frankl's insight was different. If a person has a why to live, they can endure almost any how. Even in the most brutal conditions, we always have one freedom left, the freedom to choose our response to suffering. This book is not comforting. It is challenging. It does not offer simple answers, nor does it promise happiness. Instead, it presents a truth that can change your life. Suffering is unavoidable, but within it, we can still find purpose. The question it leaves you with is inescapable. What meaning have you given to your life? Once you confront that, you may never see the world or yourself the same way again. The Myth of Sisyphus. Life offers no explanations, no grand design, no built-in purpose. So why do we keep going? The Myth of Sisyphus by Albert Camus is a fearless confrontation with this unsettling reality, forcing us to question whether existence itself is an act of defiance. Rather than offering comforting answers, Camus challenges us to stare into the void and decide for ourselves. Is life still worth living when stripped of illusions? At the heart of Camus's philosophy is the concept of the absurd, the fundamental contradiction between our relentless search for meaning and the universe's indifferent silence. Unlike other philosophers who attempt to resolve this tension through faith or reason, Camus insists that we must embrace it. To illustrate this, he turns to the Greek myth of Sisyphus, condemned to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity, only to watch it roll back down each time. His struggle is endless, devoid of victory or escape. But does that make his existence meaningless? Camus argues that Sisyphus is not a tragic figure, but a rebellious one. In accepting his fate without seeking false hope or resignation, he finds a strange form of liberation. He is fully aware of the absurdity of his condition, yet he chooses to persist. And in that persistence, he reclaims his freedom. One must imagine Sisyphus happy, Camus writes, not because his suffering is erased, but because he has embraced it without illusion. This philosophy extends beyond myth into our daily lives. We chase careers, relationships, ambitions, hoping they will provide lasting fulfillment. Yet time and again, we find ourselves in the same existential loop, pushing our own metaphorical boulders uphill. The absurd is not an abstract concept, it is the reality of being human. But instead of succumbing to despair, Camus challenges us to revolt, not through resignation or escape, but by living fully, without expecting the universe to justify itself. The Myth of Sisyphus is not a book of comfort. It is a book of defiance. It does not offer meaning, but demands that we create our own. In embracing the absurd, we reclaim our power. And in that moment of realization, existence is no longer a burden, it becomes a choice. Meditations, Marcus Aurelius. Meditations is not just a book, it is a rare and intimate look into the mind of a ruler grappling with the weight of the world. Written as personal reflections during his reign as Roman emperor, it was never meant for public reading, yet it has become one of the most powerful guides to inner strength, resilience, and self-mastery ever written. At its core, Meditations teaches a lesson that can reshape your life. You cannot control the world, only your response to it. Pain, misfortune, and injustice are inevitable, but how you react determines your character. Aurelius urges us to meet adversity with calm, to see obstacles not as misfortunes, but as opportunities for growth. A disciplined mind, he insists, is stronger than any hardship. This philosophy, rooted in Stoicism, teaches that suffering often comes not from events themselves, but from how we interpret them. By training the mind to see things as they are, without fear, anger, or self-pity, we gain control over ourselves. External chaos no longer dictates our inner peace. Meditations is not abstract theory. It is a practical manual for life. It reminds us that wealth, power, and recognition are fleeting, but virtue and wisdom endure. In a world driven by ego, distraction, and anxiety, Aurelius's words are a call to live with purpose, integrity, and clarity. The wisdom in these pages is not meant to be admired, it is meant to be applied. Those who embrace its lessons will find themselves steadier, less shaken by life's turbulence, and more at peace with whatever comes their way. The real question is, are you ready to master yourself? The Diary of a Young Girl, Anne Frank's. The Diary of a Young Girl is more than a historical document. It is a window into the soul of a teenager whose voice refuses to be silenced by time. Trapped in hiding during one of history's darkest moments, Anne transforms her fear and isolation into something extraordinary, a deeply personal, honest, and heartbreaking account of hope in the face of despair. Through her diary, we witness not just the horrors of war, but the inner world of a young girl searching for meaning, love, and identity. She writes with stunning clarity about human nature, injustice, and the resilience of the human spirit. Even as she endures unimaginable fear, she refuses to let hatred consume her. Instead, she believes in the goodness of people, even when the world around her suggests otherwise. What makes this book life-changing is its raw intimacy. Anne is not just a historical figure, she is a voice that feels strikingly familiar. A reminder of lost innocence, unfulfilled dreams, and the fragility of life. Her words challenge us to reflect on our own existence. How do we respond to adversity? What do we take for granted? And what kind of world do we leave behind? But perhaps the most haunting aspect of Anne's diary is what it leaves unsaid. The dreams that will never be realized, the life that was unjustly cut short. Her words end, but history continues. It is a stark reminder of what was lost, but also of the responsibility we carry to create a world where such tragedies never happen again. This is not just the story of one girl. It is a testament to the power of words, the endurance of hope, and the cost of hatred. Long after you turn the final page, Anne's voice lingers, a whisper from history, asking you to remember, to feel, and most of all, to never let such darkness return. The Untethered Soul. Most people go through life without ever questioning the voice in their head. the endless stream of thoughts, doubts, and fears that dictate their every move. But what if you could step outside of that mental noise and experience a completely different way of being? In The Untethered Soul, Michael Singer offers a path to breaking free from the invisible chains of your own mind, revealing how true peace comes not from controlling life, but from surrendering to it. At its core, this book reveals a profound truth. You are not your thoughts, not your worries, not even your pain. You are the one who watches it all unfold. But most people never realize this because they are trapped in an endless cycle of inner chatter, reacting to every fleeting emotion as if it defines them. Singer shows how this mental noise is the root of suffering, and how learning to detach from it can lead to a life of true peace. The key to freedom, he explains, is surrender. By letting go of the constant need to control everything, you open yourself to a higher state of being, one where fear no longer dictates your choices, where inner turmoil gives way to boundless joy. It's not about denying emotions, but about allowing them to pass through without clinging to them. Singer takes you beyond conventional self-help advice. He doesn't promise quick fixes or temporary relief. Instead, he reveals a path to a radically different way of living, one where you are no longer at war with your own mind. He invites you to step outside your mental prison and experience life as it truly is, vast, limitless, and free. Most people will continue to live inside their own self-imposed limitations, believing they are the voice in their head. But for those who truly listen to the message of the untethered soul, a different reality becomes possible. One where you are no longer trapped in the storm of your thoughts, but watching it from a place of complete stillness. The question is, are you ready to let go? The Critique of Pure Reason, Immanuel Kant's. The Critique of Pure Reason is one of the most profound and challenging works in philosophy, one that reshapes how we understand knowledge, reality, and the limits of human thought. It is a book that does not merely provide answers, but forces you to question the very foundation of what you believe to be true. At its core, Kant challenges the assumption that human reason can grasp reality as it truly is. He argues that our minds do not passively receive information from the world, but actively shape it. Space, time, and causality, concepts we take for granted, are not inherent features of the universe but structures imposed by our own perception. We do not see things as they are. We see them as our minds allow us to perceive them. This realization has staggering implications. If our understanding of the world is always filtered through these mental structures, then there are limits to what we can ever truly know. Kant draws a bold line between what can be understood through experience and what lies forever beyond our grasp, the realm of pure reason. Metaphysical debates about the existence of God, free will, and the nature of the soul, he argues, are attempts to reach beyond what human cognition is capable of comprehending. But this is not a message of despair. It is one of clarity. By recognizing the boundaries of knowledge, we gain a deeper appreciation for what we can truly understand. Kant's work frees us from intellectual illusions and forces us to confront the true scope of human thought. It is a book that forever changes the way you think, replacing naive certainty with a rigorous and humbling awareness of reality itself. Once you engage with Kant's ideas, the world will never seem as simple again. The mind is not just a tool for discovering truth. It is the lens that defines what truth even means. Sapiens, humans rule the world, but not because we are the strongest or the fastest. What truly sets us apart is our ability to create and believe in shared stories, fictions that shape our societies, drive our progress, and define our reality. In Sapiens, Yuval Noah Harari uncovers the hidden forces behind human history, revealing how myths of money, religion, and nations turned a once ordinary species into the most powerful force on Earth. Harari reveals that our success is not due to raw intelligence or physical strength, but to our unique ability to create and believe in shared myths. Money, religion, nations, human rights, none of these exist in nature, yet they shape our world more than anything tangible. This ability to cooperate on a massive scale has allowed Homo sapiens to build civilizations, wage wars, and reshape the planet itself. But our progress has come at a cost. The agricultural revolution may have allowed larger populations to thrive, but it also locked humans into grueling labor and rigid social hierarchies. Industrialization brought convenience, but also alienation. Each leap forward has raised new questions. Have we really gained freedom, or have we only traded old chains for new ones? Harari doesn't just recount history, he dismantles our assumptions. He forces us to see our world as it truly is, built on fragile agreements, shaped by forces we rarely question. And as artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and automation advance, we must ask, are we still in control of our destiny, or are we on the verge of becoming obsolete? Understanding the past is not just about history, it is about clarity. Sapiens forces us to see the invisible structures guiding our lives, the illusions we take for reality, and the patterns that repeat over centuries. In doing so, it leaves us with an unsettling yet liberating realization. The way the world works is not inevitable, and if we created it, we can change it. Cosmos. There was a time when humanity looked up at the night sky and saw only mystery. Today, we understand more than ever about the vastness of the cosmos, yet the questions remain just as profound. How did we get here? What forces shaped the universe? And what does it all mean for us? Carl Sagan's Cosmos is not just a book about space. It's an exploration of our place in the grandest story ever told. At its heart, Cosmos is about perspective. Sagan traces the origins of the universe, the formation of galaxies, the birth of our planet, and the emergence of life. But beyond the science, he asks deeper questions. What does it mean to exist in such a vast and ancient cosmos? How did human civilization arise from the dust of dead stars? And what will become of us as we reach toward the future? Sagan's vision is both breathtaking and unsettling. He reveals how small and insignificant we are in the grand scale of the universe, yet he also shows that our ability to understand it is nothing short of miraculous. He warns against ignorance, superstition, and the dangers of self-destruction, urging us to embrace reason, curiosity, and a shared responsibility for our fragile planet. But perhaps the most powerful message of Cosmos is its reminder that science is not just a collection of facts, it is a way of thinking, a candle in the dark against the vast unknown. It challenges us to see knowledge as an ongoing journey, not a destination. This book leaves you with more than just information. It gives you a new way of seeing reality. It reminds us that while we are small, we are also capable of great understanding. And in that understanding, we may just find our greatest purpose. The Republic, Plato's. The Republic is not just a book about politics. It is a deep and relentless exploration of justice, power, and the very nature of reality. It is a work that forces you to confront fundamental questions about society and the human condition, challenging everything you assume about morality, leadership, and knowledge. At its core, the Republic examines what it means to build a just society. Through Socrates' dialogues, Plato dismantles flawed ideas of justice and argues that true justice is not about power or personal gain, but about the harmony of individuals fulfilling their rightful roles. He introduces the concept of the philosopher king, an enlightened ruler guided by wisdom rather than ambition, questioning whether democracy, with its susceptibility to ignorance and manipulation, can ever lead to true justice. But the Republic goes far beyond politics. In the famous allegory of the cave, Plato suggests that most people live in ignorance, mistaking shadows for reality. True knowledge, he argues, requires breaking free from illusion and seeking a deeper understanding of the world. This idea has shaped philosophy for centuries, influencing everything from existential thought to modern psychology. The book also explores the nature of the soul, arguing that just as a well-ordered society requires harmony, so too does the human mind. He divides the soul into three parts: reason, spirit, and desire, emphasizing the importance of self-mastery. Without reason guiding the soul, both individuals and societies fall into chaos. To read the Republic is to question the very structure of the world you live in. It forces you to ask whether your beliefs are truly your own or mere reflections of society's influence. It is not just a book, it is an intellectual awakening, one that compels you to seek truth, justice, and wisdom, beyond the illusions of everyday life. Once its ideas take hold, you may never see the world the same way again. Gödel, Escher, Bach. Douglas Hofstadter's Gödel, Escher, Bach is a masterpiece that defies traditional categories. It is a journey through mathematics, art, and music. Yet at its core, it is a profound meditation on the nature of consciousness, self-reference, and meaning itself. This book does not just teach, it transforms the way you think. At its heart lies the concept of strange loops, self-referential systems that arise in everything from mathematical logic to human thought. Hofstadter explores how Kurt Gödel's incompleteness theorems shattered the foundations of mathematics, proving that no formal system can ever be complete. He connects this to the paradoxical art of M.C. Escher, whose drawings depict impossible realities, and the music of Johann Sebastian Bach, whose compositions contain intricate self-referential structures. But the true brilliance of Gödel, Escher, Bach is how it links these ideas to the very essence of human consciousness. Hofstadter suggests that our sense of self, our I, is not a fixed entity, but an emergent phenomenon arising from layers of self-reference in the brain. He draws parallels between machine intelligence, neural networks, and the recursive patterns of thought, raising profound questions about whether artificial intelligence could ever develop true self-awareness. The book does not offer simple answers. Instead, it challenges you to think in entirely new ways. It blends logic with creativity, playfulness with rigor, and philosophy with science. The journey through its pages is both exhilarating and humbling, revealing hidden connections between disciplines that seem worlds apart. Gödel, Escher, Bach is not just a book you read, it is a book that reads you, reshaping your perception of thought, creativity, and what it truly means to be alive. Once you grasp its ideas, your understanding of the mind, mathematics, and the fabric of reality itself may never be the same again. The World as Will and Representation. Arthur Schopenhauer's The World as Will and Representation is a staggering exploration of existence, perception, and suffering. It is a book that forces you to confront the unsettling truth about reality. Beneath the world of appearances lies an unstoppable, blind force, the will. This primal drive, according to Schopenhauer, is the essence of all life, compelling us to chase desires that can never truly be satisfied. Every action, every ambition, every craving is merely an expression of this ceaseless force, ensuring that contentment remains forever out of reach. At the heart of this work is the idea that reality is not an objective structure, but a projection shaped by our minds. The world we see is merely a representation, a filtered version of something deeper and far more irrational. Schopenhauer argues that human existence is defined by an endless cycle of striving, where the fulfillment of one desire only gives birth to another, trapping us in perpetual suffering. Yet, Schopenhauer does not leave us without escape. He suggests that through art, aesthetic contemplation, and the suppression of desire, we can transcend the will's control and achieve a form of inner peace. Music, in particular, he claims, provides a direct glimpse into the essence of existence, offering a temporary reprieve from the struggles of life. He also explores themes of compassion and asceticism as paths to liberation, foreshadowing ideas found in Eastern philosophies like Buddhism. This is not a book that offers comforting illusions. It is a book that forces you to see the world for what it truly is. Schopenhauer's vision is haunting, yet strangely illuminating. To read the world as will and representation is to step beyond ordinary perception and into a radical, unsettling truth. Few books will challenge your understanding of life as profoundly as this one. The doors of perception. We think we see the world as it truly is. But what if our perception is nothing more than a dim, restricted version of reality? In The Doors of Perception, Aldous Huxley embarks on a radical exploration of human consciousness, documenting his experience with mescaline and the mind-altering revelations that followed. What he discovers is both astonishing and unsettling. Our everyday awareness is not the full picture, but a narrow sliver of something far more expansive. Huxley argues that the brain functions as a filtering system, stripping away the overwhelming depth of reality so that we can focus on survival. Psychedelics, he suggests, temporarily disrupt this filter, allowing us to perceive the world in its raw, unmediated brilliance. Ordinary objects become luminous and deeply significant. The distinction between self and surroundings begins to blur. Colours, textures, and sounds take on an almost divine intensity. For Huxley, these altered states are not hallucinations, but glimpses into a greater truth, one that art, religion, and mysticism have long sought to capture. But this book is not just about psychedelics, it is about the nature of perception itself. Huxley challenges us to reconsider the way we interpret reality, suggesting that our normal consciousness is shaped by language, habit, and cultural conditioning. If our minds operate with blinders on, what else might we be missing? The Doors of Perception is not just a memoir, it is an invitation to question the limits of the human mind. Huxley's insights are as provocative as they are transformative, urging us to see beyond the ordinary and embrace the possibility that reality is far more mysterious than we ever imagined. Once you begin to see through these doors, there is no turning back. The big picture. What if everything, your thoughts, emotions, and sense of self, is nothing more than the intricate dance of particles obeying physical laws? In The Big Picture, Sean Carroll takes us on a profound journey through science and philosophy, challenging us to rethink existence itself. This is not just a book about physics. It is an exploration of meaning, consciousness, and the very nature of reality. Carroll introduces a framework he calls poetic naturalism, the idea that while the universe is governed by strict physical laws, our experiences, values, and sense of purpose emerge naturally from its complexity. He tackles some of the deepest questions we can ask. What is reality made of? How did life arise from lifeless matter? Is consciousness merely an illusion? Through clear and compelling storytelling, Carroll weaves together quantum mechanics, thermodynamics, and evolutionary biology to show how everything we know fits into the grand structure of the cosmos. One of the book's most striking arguments is its rejection of dualism, the belief that the mind or soul exists separately from the physical world. Instead, Carroll argues that consciousness is a product of intricate material processes, making supernatural explanations unnecessary. He also explores free will, morality, and the search for meaning, showing that while the universe does not dictate purpose, we have the power to create it ourselves. Ultimately, The Big Picture is about more than just understanding the laws of nature. It is about what it means to be human. Carroll replaces comforting illusions with awe-inspiring truths, offering a perspective that is both humbling and empowering. For those ready to challenge their assumptions, this book will change not only how they see the universe, but how they live within it. Fooled by Randomness. Nassim Nicholas. Taleb's Fooled by Randomness is a wake-up call to anyone who believes success is solely the result of skill, intelligence, or hard work. This book dismantles our illusions of control, revealing how chance, luck, and randomness shape our lives far more than we like to admit. Taleb explores the hidden role of probability in everything, from financial markets to personal achievements. He shows how we fall for survivorship bias, mistakenly attributing success to talent, while ignoring the countless others who failed under the same conditions. The world, he argues, is not as predictable as we think, and our minds are wired to see patterns where none exist. We crave explanations, weaving stories of cause and effect, even when outcomes are largely determined by randomness. This book also forces us to question the way we make decisions. Are we truly in control, or are we just reacting to randomness disguised as certainty? Taleb warns against overconfidence, reminding us that even the most sophisticated models can crumble under the weight of the unknown. He critiques the financial world's illusion of predictability, where traders and investors often mistake lucky streaks for skill, until an unforeseen event wipes them out. But Fooled by Randomness is not a pessimistic book, it's an empowering one. Once we recognize the role of chance, we can make better decisions, become more skeptical of empty predictions, and develop a mindset that thrives in uncertainty. Instead of chasing illusions of certainty, we learn to embrace probabilities, understanding that resilience and adaptability matter more than false confidence. This book is not just about probability, it's about seeing reality as it truly is. It shifts your perception of success, failure, and decision-making in ways that will permanently alter how you view the world. Behave. This book by Robert Sapolsky is an extraordinary deep dive into the science of human behavior, tackling one of the most complex questions of all. Why do we do what we do? This book unravels the intricate web of biology, psychology, and culture that shapes every decision we make, from moments of kindness to acts of violence. It dismantles the illusion that we act in isolation, showing instead that every choice we make is the culmination of influences stretching back seconds, years, and even millennia. Sapolsky takes us on a journey through time, starting with the milliseconds before an action occurs, how neurons fire, how hormones surge, before stepping back to explore the deeper roots of behavior. What happened in the preceding hours to shape our emotions? How did childhood experiences wire our responses? And how did evolutionary pressures millions of years ago craft the instincts we take for granted? He reveals how genetics and environment intertwine, breaking down the simplistic debate of nature versus nurture. Instead, he paints a picture of human nature that is complex, unpredictable, and deeply interconnected. But Behave isn't just about science, it's about understanding ourselves on a deeper level. By exploring the hidden forces behind morality, prejudice, and aggression, Sapolsky forces us to reconsider concepts like blame and free will. Are we truly in control, or are we just the sum of countless biological and environmental influences? And if so, what does that mean for ethics, justice, and how we treat one another? This book doesn't just explain human nature, it challenges you to rethink it. By the time you finish, you won't see yourself, or others, the same way again. Behave doesn't just inform, it transforms the way you perceive human actions, leaving you with a newfound awareness of the invisible forces shaping every aspect of life. How to create a mind. Intelligence is humanity's defining trait, yet we barely understand how it works. What if we could not only unravel its mysteries but also replicate it? In How to Create a Mind, Ray Kurzweil takes on this challenge, arguing that the future of artificial intelligence depends on unlocking the secrets of our own brains. His vision is audacious. If we can reverse engineer human cognition, we are on the verge of building machines that can think, learn, and perhaps even become conscious. Kurzweil presents a compelling theory. The brain operates as a hierarchical pattern recognition system, constantly predicting, analyzing, and refining information. This mechanism is what allows us to learn, adapt, and create, and it's precisely this structure that he believes can be replicated in artificial intelligence. If we can reverse engineer the brain, he suggests, we are on the verge of creating machines that not only think but learn, innovate, and perhaps even develop consciousness. But this book isn't just about AI, it's about what it means to be human. What is self-awareness? Can machines truly experience emotions, or is intelligence just an advanced form of pattern processing? If artificial minds surpass human intelligence, will they enhance our abilities or render us obsolete? Kurzweil argues that the line between biology and technology is blurring, and soon we may not just create AI, we may merge with it, redefining intelligence itself. Rather than fearing this future, Kurzweil invites us to embrace it. Intelligence is not a fixed trait, it evolves, and whether through biology or silicon, the pursuit of knowledge and creativity will continue. If he's right, the age of artificial minds is not just approaching, it's inevitable. And when it arrives, we may have to redefine what it means to be alive. The Rational Optimist. Doomsayers have been predicting the downfall of civilization for centuries, yet history tells a different story, one of progress, innovation, and rising prosperity. In The Rational Optimist, Matt Ridley argues that despite today's widespread pessimism, humanity is not on the brink of collapse, but on an extraordinary upward trajectory. The secret to this relentless progress? Our unique ability to exchange ideas, goods, and knowledge, driving innovation and lifting societies to new heights. Ridley traces the evolution of human prosperity, dismantling the idea that scarcity and disaster are inevitable. He shows how trade, open markets, and free societies have historically fostered creativity and problem-solving, enabling civilizations to overcome everything from food shortages to environmental crises. Rather than being a species doomed by its own success, humanity thrives by adapting, cooperating, and sharing solutions across generations. Critics claim modern civilization is in decline, pointing to wars, economic instability, and climate change. But Ridley counters that these challenges, like those before them, are surmountable. From advances in medicine to improvements in global living standards, the evidence suggests that human well-being is at an all-time high. The world is far from perfect, But data, not fear, reveals a clear trend of progress. More than just a defense of optimism, the Rational Optimist is a call to rethink how we view the future. Are we trapped in a cycle of negativity, blind to the steady march of progress? By questioning the apocalyptic narratives that dominate headlines, Ridley challenges us to see the world not as it is feared to be, but as it truly is, a place of extraordinary potential and continuous growth. The fabric of reality. Reality is not what it seems. In The Fabric of Reality, David Deutsch offers a bold new way of understanding the universe, one that fuses quantum physics, evolution, computation, and epistemology into a single, unified framework. He argues that these disciplines are not isolated but are deeply interconnected, forming the foundation of everything we know and everything we have yet to discover. At the core of the book is a revolutionary idea: knowledge creation is the driving force of progress. Deutsch contends that human advancement isn't random, it is the result of our ability to generate better explanations, refine them, and expand our understanding. This principle doesn't just apply to science. It underpins technology, civilization, and even the survival of our species. Perhaps the most mind-bending concept Deutsch defends is the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. He argues that parallel universes are not just theoretical speculation, but an inevitable consequence of quantum theory. Every decision, every event, and every possibility unfolds across an infinite number of realities. This challenges everything we think we know about existence, consciousness, and the very nature of choice. But The Fabric of Reality isn't just a book about physics. It's an intellectual upheaval. It forces us to rethink what it means to understand anything at all. Deutsch doesn't just describe the universe. He invites us to participate in the ongoing quest to explain it. By the time you finish, you may no longer see knowledge as a mere tool, but as the fundamental force shaping reality itself. Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Friedrich Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra is not just a book. It is a challenge, a confrontation with everything you believe about morality, purpose, and the future of humanity. Written in a poetic and prophetic style, it delivers Nietzsche's most powerful ideas, forcing the reader to wrestle with uncomfortable truths and profound possibilities. The book follows Zarathustra, a solitary thinker who returns from the mountains to share a radical message with mankind. He declares that God is dead, not as a rejection of spirituality, but as an urgent wake-up call. The old foundations of morality and meaning have crumbled, and humanity must now forge its own path. If we are to move forward, we must break free from inherited beliefs and take responsibility for shaping our own destiny. At the heart of Zarathustra's teachings is the concept of the Übermensch, the higher being who rises above fear, conformity, and mediocrity. The Übermensch does not seek external validation, but creates meaning from within, embracing struggle and transformation as necessary for true greatness. This figure is not born but forged through resilience, self-overcoming, and a radical affirmation of life. Nietzsche also presents the haunting idea of eternal recurrence, a thought experiment that forces you to consider whether you are living a life worth repeating endlessly. If every moment, every choice, had to be relived forever, would you welcome that fate or be horrified by it? This question is not meant to paralyze but to inspire, to push you toward a life so fulfilling that you would choose it again and again. This is not a book that leaves you unchanged. It is a challenge to rise above complacency, to create meaning in a world without guarantees, and to step boldly into the role of architect of your own existence. The problems of philosophy. How do we know anything at all? Can we trust our senses? Or is reality something far different from what it appears to be? In The Problems of Philosophy, Bertrand Russell dissects these fundamental questions, guiding us through the uncertainties that underpin human knowledge. This is not just a book about philosophy. It's an invitation to rethink the very nature of truth, perception, and understanding. Russell begins with skepticism, asking whether we can ever be certain of anything. Our senses tell us that a table is solid, but physics reveals it is mostly empty space. A stick in water appears bent, yet we know it remains straight. If our perceptions can mislead us so easily, how can we be sure of anything? Through clear and engaging reasoning, Russell explores the distinction between appearance and reality, the nature of matter, and the limits of empirical knowledge. He then turns to logic and abstract thought, showing how philosophy helps us move beyond sensory experience to grasp deeper truths. Drawing from great thinkers like Descartes, Hume, and Kant, he unpacks the nature of belief, the foundations of reasoning, and the ways we construct knowledge itself. Yet the problems of philosophy is not an argument for despair. It is a defense of intellectual curiosity. Russell shows that while absolute certainty may be unattainable, the search for truth is what drives human progress. Philosophy, he argues, does not give us final answers, but teaches us how to think critically, embrace uncertainty, and appreciate the beauty of unanswered questions. This book is an essential guide for anyone seeking to sharpen their mind and challenge their assumptions about reality. The Conspiracy Against the Human Race. Most books try to comfort you, to assure you that life has meaning. Thomas Ligotti's The Conspiracy Against the Human Race does the opposite. It stares directly into the void and dares you to do the same. This is not just a book. It is a bleak but unflinching meditation on the horror of consciousness itself. Ligotti argues that self-awareness is not a gift, but a cruel mistake of evolution. Unlike other creatures that live without questioning their existence, humans are burdened with the knowledge of their own mortality, the futility of their struggles, and the inescapable nature of suffering. We are, in his view, puppets who have become aware of our own strings, trapped in a reality that offers no inherent purpose, only the illusion of meaning to keep us going. Drawing from the philosophy of Arthur Schopenhauer, the cosmic horror of H.P. Lovecraft, and the darkest corners of literature, Ligotti dismantles the comforting narratives that shield us from despair. He suggests that optimism is not wisdom but a biological trick, a delusion that keeps us from seeing the world for what it truly is, indifferent, empty, and grotesquely absurd. But this book is not about nihilism for its own sake. It is a challenge, an invitation to strip away illusions and confront reality as it is. Whether you reject Ligotti's conclusions or find them disturbingly resonant, one thing is certain. Once you have read The Conspiracy Against the Human Race, you cannot unread it. When breath becomes air. At what point does a life stop being about the future and start being about the present? When Breath Becomes Air is the devastating yet profoundly illuminating memoir of Paul Kalanithi, a neurosurgeon whose promising career is abruptly cut short by terminal lung cancer. One day, he is the doctor saving lives. The next, he is the patient fighting to hold on to his own. Faced with the knowledge that his time is running out, Kalanithi embarks on a journey not just to understand death, but to redefine what it means to truly live. With a sharp, philosophical mind and the heart of a poet, Kalanithi reflects on the nature of mortality, the pursuit of meaning, and the intersection of science and the human spirit. As he transitions from healer to patient, he grapples with impossible questions. If life is short, what makes it worth living? How do we measure a meaningful existence? These reflections, drawn from his experiences in medicine, literature, and his own suffering, create a deeply personal, yet universally resonant meditation on life's fragility. But this book is not just about dying, it's about embracing the time we have. Even as his body fails him, Kalanithi chooses to keep moving forward, returning to work, writing, becoming a father. His words remind us that meaning is not found in how long we live, but in how deeply we engage with life. When Breath Becomes Air is not simply a memoir, it is a wake-up call to appreciate every moment. It leaves readers with a haunting yet beautiful truth. In the face of death, we can either surrender or choose to live with purpose until our final breath. The elegant universe. Reality is not what it seems. Beneath the familiar world of stars, atoms, and forces lies a hidden framework, so bizarre, it defies common sense. In The Elegant Universe, physicist Brian Greene takes us on a mind-expanding journey through space, time, and the deepest structures of reality. If you've ever questioned what the universe is truly made of, this book will shatter your expectations and leave you awestruck by the sheer complexity of existence. At the heart of Greene's exploration is string theory, a revolutionary idea that suggests the universe's fundamental building blocks are not particles, but minuscule vibrating strings. These strings, oscillating in dimensions beyond human perception, may hold the key to uniting the two great pillars of modern physics: Einstein's theory of relativity, which explains the grand structure of the cosmos, and quantum mechanics, which governs the chaotic world of the subatomic. For decades, these theories have stood in contradiction, but string theory offers a potential bridge, a single framework that could explain everything. But the elegant universe isn't just about equations. It challenges our understanding of reality itself. Space and time may not be fundamental, but emergent properties of a deeper, hidden order. The universe may contain extra dimensions curled up beyond our perception, or even parallel worlds governed by unseen forces. Green's lucid explanations transform these mind-bending concepts from abstract mathematics into tangible ideas, making them feel just within reach. This book is more than a lesson in physics. It's an invitation to see the universe through new eyes. Once you glimpse the elegant structure beneath existence, your sense of reality will never be the same again. The first 3 minutes. Before there were galaxies, before there were stars, before there was even light, the universe was a dense, seething cauldron of energy. In the first 3 minutes, physicist Steven Weinberg takes us back to this unimaginable moment, unraveling the story of how everything we see today emerged from the chaotic aftermath of the Big Bang. If you have ever wondered how something arose from nothing, or why the cosmos exists in its present form, this book offers answers that will forever change your perspective on reality. Weinberg masterfully guides us through the staggering events that unfolded in the universe's infancy, where temperatures soared to incomprehensible levels, particles formed and annihilated in an instant, and the fundamental forces of nature began their intricate dance. Within a fraction of a second, the groundwork for galaxies, stars, and life itself was laid. By reconstructing these fleeting moments, he reveals the precise and delicate physics that made our existence possible. But this book is more than a scientific account. It is a reminder of how fragile and extraordinary reality truly is. Weinberg connects the latest discoveries in cosmology with profound philosophical questions, showing how the universe's earliest moments hold clues not only to our origins, but also to its ultimate fate. His writing does more than educate. It inspires awe, forcing us to confront the sheer vastness of the forces that shaped us. In the end, the first 3 minutes is not just about the beginning of time. It is an invitation to see the universe through new eyes. Once you grasp the cosmic forces that brought everything into being, you may never look at the night sky the same way again. The Origin of Species. Few books have reshaped our understanding of life as profoundly as The Origin of Species by Charles Darwin. It is not just a scientific work, it is a revelation, a fundamental shift in how we perceive nature, ourselves, and the forces that shape all living things. Darwin unveils a simple yet astonishing truth. Life is not static, nor was it designed in its present form. Instead, species evolve through a slow and relentless process, natural selection. In every generation, small variations arise. Some of these traits offer an advantage, helping organisms survive and reproduce. Over immense spans of time, these tiny changes accumulate, giving rise to new species, while others fade into extinction. This idea shattered centuries of belief in fixed, unchanging life forms. It revealed a world driven not by chance or divine intervention, but by an elegant, natural process, one that explains the astonishing diversity of life. Everything, from the tiniest bacteria to towering trees and intelligent beings, is connected through this endless cycle of adaptation and change. Darwin did not just propose a theory. He provided overwhelming evidence, gathered through years of observation and research. Fossils, geographical distribution, embryology, all pointed to the same conclusion. Life is a constant work in progress. Reading. The Origin of Species is like opening your eyes to the hidden forces shaping the natural world. It challenges you to see life differently, not as a fixed design, but as a masterpiece of gradual transformation. This book is more than history. It is the foundation of modern biology and a reminder that change is not only possible, but inevitable. Understanding its message alters the way you see nature, humanity, and your own place in this ever-evolving world. The Inflationary Universe. This book by Alan Guth is a radical rethinking of the origins of everything. It takes one of the deepest mysteries in cosmology, the birth of the universe, and transforms it with a groundbreaking theory that reshapes our understanding of time, space, and existence itself. If you've ever questioned what came before the Big Bang, or how the universe expanded into the vast cosmic web we see today, this book will make you rethink reality from the ground up. At its core, Guth's inflation theory solves problems that baffled scientists for decades. How did the universe grow so uniformly, despite the randomness of quantum mechanics? Why does space appear so flat when gravity should have curved it long ago? The answer lies in an almost inconceivably rapid expansion, an instant of exponential inflation, stretching the universe from subatomic scales to cosmic proportions in a fraction of a second. But the implications go far beyond the Big Bang. Inflation suggests that our universe may be just one of many, part of an endless multiverse, where new universes are constantly bubbling into existence. This idea challenges everything we think we know about reality, hinting that what we see is only a tiny fragment of an unimaginably vast cosmic landscape. More than a scientific theory, the inflationary universe is a testament to human ingenuity, the ability to peer into the deep past and decode the mechanisms that gave rise to everything. It is a book that forces you to question your assumptions about time, space, and the fundamental nature of reality itself. And once you grasp its ideas, you may never think of the universe the same way again. A Universe from Nothing. Lawrence Krauss's book, A Universe from Nothing, is a daring exploration of one of the most fundamental questions in existence. Why is there something rather than nothing? If you've ever struggled with the idea of how the universe could arise without a creator, this book delivers an answer rooted in the laws of physics, one that is as unsettling as it is awe-inspiring. Krauss dismantles the assumption that nothing is truly empty. In the quantum world, empty space is never truly void. It seethes with energy, constantly producing and annihilating particles. The universe itself, he argues, could have emerged from this quantum nothingness, driven by the forces of physics alone. In this view, the cosmos is not the product of divine intervention, but a natural consequence of how reality operates at its most fundamental level. But this book goes far beyond just explaining origins. Krauss takes us through the stunning discoveries of modern cosmology, the accelerating expansion of the universe, the nature of dark energy, and the ultimate fate of everything. He paints a picture of a cosmos that is not only stranger than we imagine, but stranger than we can imagine. This is not just a book about science, it is a book about shifting perspectives. It challenges our deepest assumptions about existence and forces us to confront a reality where the universe requires no external cause, where something can and does emerge from nothing. And once you absorb these ideas, the very concept of existence will never feel the same again. What is life? Erwin Schrödinger's What is Life? Is a daring attempt to bridge physics and biology, seeking to answer one of the most profound questions of existence. What makes life different from inanimate matter? In this small yet monumental work, Schrödinger lays the groundwork for modern molecular biology, forever changing our understanding of life itself. At the heart of the book is the idea that life operates within the laws of physics, yet defies the chaotic tendencies of the universe. Schrödinger introduces the concept of negative entropy, explaining how living organisms maintain order by extracting energy from their surroundings. This insight would later influence the discovery of DNA's structure, providing a theoretical foundation for the genetic code. But what is life? Goes beyond biology. Schrödinger questions whether life's essence can be reduced to mere physical and chemical interactions, or if something deeper is at play. He explores the implications of quantum mechanics in biological processes, an idea that remains controversial, yet continues to inspire research in fields like quantum biology, artificial intelligence, and consciousness studies. The book also challenges our understanding of free will and determinism. If the molecules within us obey strict physical laws, where does human agency fit in? Is life simply an inevitable outcome of physics, or is there something irreducible about living systems? Schrödinger's ideas push the boundaries of what we consider possible, daring us to look at life from an entirely new perspective. This is not just a book about science, it is a philosophical challenge. It forces you to confront the very nature of existence and question whether life is simply a complex arrangement of molecules or something more profound. What is life? Does not hand you answers. It dares you to think beyond the boundaries of conventional wisdom. Once its ideas take hold, they linger, reshaping the way you perceive not only biology, but the very fabric of reality. Being and time. Most people move through life without ever truly questioning what it means to exist. But what if everything you take for granted, your sense of self, your understanding of time, your relationship with the world, was built on assumptions you've never examined? In Being and Time, Martin Heidegger dismantles our everyday understanding of existence, forcing us to confront the deepest and most unsettling question of all. What does it mean to be? This book is not just philosophy. It's an intellectual earthquake, shaking the very foundations of how we understand reality and ourselves. Heidegger introduces the concept of Dasein, the unique mode of being that defines human existence. Unlike objects that simply exist, humans are aware of their existence, constantly interpreting their place in the world. He argues that we are not isolated minds observing reality from a distance, but beings fundamentally shaped by our experiences, culture, and relationships. At the heart of his analysis is time. Our past shapes our present, and our awareness of death casts a shadow over everything we do. Heidegger challenges us to stop living inauthentically, conforming to societal expectations, and instead embrace the finite nature of life with full awareness. This book is dense, complex, and often frustrating, but its impact is undeniable. Heidegger's insights have influenced existentialism, psychology, literature, and even artificial intelligence. He forces us to ask, are we truly living, or just passing time? Being and Time does not offer easy answers, but it will leave you with a deeper, more profound awareness of your own existence. After reading it, even the simplest moments, walking through a city, watching the sunset, take on a new, almost sacred significance. Life is fleeting, and Heidegger urges you to wake up before it's too late. The pleasure of finding things out. The greatest joy in life might not be in knowing, but in discovering. The Pleasure of Finding Things Out is a brilliant collection of reflections by Richard Feynman, a physicist whose boundless curiosity and deep love for learning made him one of the most extraordinary thinkers of the 20th century. More than just a book on science, this work is a passionate defense of intellectual honesty, critical thinking, and the relentless pursuit of truth. It is an invitation to see the world through the eyes of a man who never stopped questioning, never stopped wondering, and never stopped delighting in the mysteries of the universe. Feynman's essays and interviews span a wide range of topics: science, education, philosophy, and even the art of problem solving. He reveals how true scientific thinking is not about memorizing facts, but about learning how to ask the right questions. With characteristic wit and clarity, he dismantles common misconceptions, explains the beauty of scientific inquiry, and highlights the dangers of dogma and blind faith. His insights extend beyond physics, touching on the importance of doubt, the necessity of failure, and the sheer joy of uncovering how things work. Whether he is discussing the atomic bomb, the Challenger disaster, or his own adventures in safe-cracking and bongo playing, Feynman's infectious enthusiasm makes every idea come alive. At its core, this book is about the thrill of discovery, the sheer, uncontainable excitement of understanding something new. Feynman reminds us that curiosity is not just for scientists. It is a way of life, a mindset that keeps the world endlessly fascinating. Reading this book is not just an intellectual exercise, it is an awakening, a reminder that the universe is filled with wonder, waiting to be explored by those bold enough to ask, why? Guns, germs, and steel. Why did some civilizations rise to global dominance while others remained marginalized? In Guns, Germs, and Steel, Jared Diamond dismantles the notion that history unfolded the way it did because of inherent differences in intelligence or ability between peoples. Instead, he reveals a deeper, more unsettling truth. Geography, environment, and chance shaped the fate of civilizations. Diamond traces how access to domesticable plants and animals allowed some societies to develop agriculture early, freeing them from the limitations of hunting and gathering. This surplus of food led to the rise of complex societies, technological innovation, and written language, advantages that would later allow certain civilizations to dominate others. But the most unexpected force of conquest wasn't just weapons or strategy, it was disease. Societies with long histories of farming lived in close proximity to domesticated animals, inadvertently developing immunity to deadly pathogens. When European explorers set sail, they unknowingly carried diseases like smallpox and measles, devastating indigenous populations who had no immunity. This book forces us to rethink the forces behind historical power imbalances. It challenges the idea that success is purely a product of intelligence or hard work, revealing how deep-rooted environmental factors played a decisive role in shaping the modern world. It also raises pressing questions about inequality today. How much of our present reality is shaped by the past in ways we rarely consider? Guns, Germs, and Steel is more than just history. It's a revelation. It forces you to confront the hidden structures that have shaped civilization, changing the way you see the world forever. Our Mathematical Universe. This Max Tegmark's book presents a radical and astonishing idea. Reality itself is not just described by mathematics, it is mathematics. This is not just a book about numbers and equations, it is a deep exploration of the nature of existence, consciousness, and the ultimate structure of reality. Tegmark argues that everything we perceive, from the smallest particles to the largest galaxies, is part of a vast mathematical structure. The laws of physics, rather than being arbitrary, emerge naturally from the fundamental principles of mathematics. This leads to one of the most mind-bending conclusions in modern science. We may live in a multiverse, an infinite collection of parallel realities where every possible version of events plays out. In some of these universes, you might not exist at all, while in others, an entirely different version of you could be living a different life. But our mathematical universe is more than just an abstract theory. It forces us to reconsider what it means to be conscious beings in a seemingly cold mathematical world. If reality is pure mathematics, then what is free will? What is meaning? Are we simply patterns within an eternal, unchanging equation? The implications of this idea stretch beyond physics, touching on philosophy, identity, and the very foundations of what we call reality. Tegmark's ideas are both unsettling and awe-inspiring. This book challenges the way we understand the universe, pushing us beyond our intuitive assumptions about reality. Whether or not you accept his conclusions, the questions he raises will stay with you long after you finish reading. To engage with our mathematical universe is to confront the possibility that everything, our lives, our choices, even the universe itself, is part of an intricate, eternal mathematical tapestry. It is a book that reshapes how you think about existence itself. The problems of philosophy. How do we know anything at all? Can we trust our senses? Or is reality something far different from what it appears to be? In The Problems of Philosophy, Bertrand Russell dissects these fundamental questions, guiding us through the uncertainties that underpin human knowledge. This is not just a book about philosophy, it's an invitation to rethink the very nature of truth, perception, and understanding. Russell begins with skepticism, asking whether we can ever be certain of anything. Our senses tell us that a table is solid, but physics reveals it is mostly empty space. A stick in water appears bent, yet we know it remains straight. If our perceptions can mislead us so easily, how can we be sure of anything? Through clear and engaging reasoning, Russell explores the distinction between appearance and reality, the nature of matter, and the limits of empirical knowledge. He then turns to logic and abstract thought, showing how philosophy helps us move beyond sensory experience to grasp deeper truths. Drawing from great thinkers like Descartes, Hume, and Kant, he unpacks the nature of belief, the foundations of reasoning, and the ways we construct knowledge itself. Yet The Problems of Philosophy is not an argument for despair. It is a defense of intellectual curiosity. Russell shows that while absolute certainty may be unattainable, the search for truth is what drives human progress. Philosophy, he argues, does not give us final answers, but teaches us how to think critically, embrace uncertainty, and appreciate the beauty of unanswered questions. This book is an essential guide for anyone seeking to sharpen their mind and challenge their assumptions about reality. The order of time. Time feels like the one constant in our lives, unstoppable, universal, and absolute. But what if everything we believe about time is wrong? In The Order of Time, physicist Carlo Rovelli dismantles our deepest assumptions about time's nature, revealing a reality far stranger than we ever imagined. Rovelli takes us on a journey through Einstein's relativity and quantum mechanics, showing that time is not a rigid flow, but a shifting, fluid entity. A clock on a mountain runs faster than one in a valley. The distinction between past and future begins to blur. And at the most fundamental level of physics, time may not even exist in the way we experience it. But this book is not just about science. It's about how these discoveries reshape our understanding of existence. If time is not an absolute force, what does that mean for our memories, our choices, and the meaning we assign to our lives? Rovelli argues that time is not something external. It's something we create, a way of making sense of an ever-changing universe. Reading The Order of Time is like stepping outside the framework of reality itself. It challenges you to rethink not just time, but the way you experience every moment of your life. And once you grasp its revelations, the world and your place in it will never look the same again. Complexity. The world around us is bursting with complexity. Weather patterns shift unpredictably, cities grow without a master plan, and intelligence emerges from networks of simple neurons. But what if all of this intricate order arises from the same underlying principles? Melanie Mitchell's Complexity reveals the hidden laws that govern the most sophisticated systems in nature, technology, and human society. At its core, complexity science challenges the traditional, reductionist way of understanding reality. Instead of breaking things down into isolated parts, it looks at how patterns, self-organization, and adaptation emerge when simple elements interact. Ant colonies, immune systems, financial markets, none are centrally controlled, yet all display intelligence and resilience far beyond their individual components. Mitchell takes you through the revolutionary insights of pioneers like John von Neumann, Alan Turing, and Stuart Kauffman, showing how complexity science bridges fields as diverse as physics, biology, and artificial intelligence. She explores the mathematics of chaos, the power of networks, and the eerie parallels between evolution and machine learning, revealing that the principles of complexity might hold the key to unlocking artificial consciousness itself. But the real impact of this book lies in how it shifts your perception of the world. It forces you to rethink how change happens, not through top-down design, but through emergence, adaptation, and feedback loops shaping everything from civilizations to the human mind. In the end, complexity is more than just a scientific exploration. It's a new way of seeing reality. Once you grasp its ideas, you begin to notice the unseen connections in everything, from the smallest cell to the largest economy. And with that realization, the world never looks the same again. Consciousness Explained. What if everything you think you know about consciousness is wrong? What if your sense of self, the inner voice narrating your life, the unified experience of being you, is nothing more than a grand illusion? In Consciousness Explained, philosopher and cognitive scientist Daniel Dennett challenges our deepest assumptions about the mind, dismantling traditional theories and replacing them with a radically new understanding of human consciousness. This is not just another book on the mind. It's an intellectual revolution that redefines what it means to be aware, to think, and to experience reality. At the heart of Dennett's argument is the idea that consciousness is not a single, centralized entity, but a complex, decentralized process. He introduces the multiple drafts model, which suggests that our thoughts and perceptions are not processed in a linear fashion by a central command center, but are instead the result of countless competing and interacting neural processes. What we call conscious experience is merely the brain's best attempt at making sense of this chaotic system, crafting a coherent but ultimately deceptive narrative. There is no Cartesian theater where everything comes together, just a continuous stream of interpretations, none of which is privileged as the definitive reality. Dennett's work has profound implications, not just for philosophy, but for fields as diverse as neuroscience, artificial intelligence, and even ethics. If consciousness is a construct rather than a fundamental essence, what does that mean for free will, personal identity, and our understanding of morality? Consciousness Explained forces us to confront the uncomfortable possibility that our inner world is far less solid than we imagine. And yet, rather than diminishing the wonder of human experience, Dennett's insights reveal the astonishing complexity of the brain, a machine that, in trying to understand itself, creates the illusion of being something more. The Hero with a Thousand Faces. Why do myths from different cultures, separated by vast distances and centuries, tell the same fundamental story? The Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell reveals that at the heart of every great myth, legend, and even modern storytelling lies a single structure: the hero's journey. Campbell dissects this universal pattern, showing how heroes across time undergo the same cycle: an ordinary life disrupted by a call to adventure, trials that force them to grow, and a triumphant return, forever changed. From the ancient epics of Gilgamesh and Odysseus to the stories of Buddha, Jesus, and even modern cinematic legends like Luke Skywalker, Campbell unveils the deep psychological truths behind humanity's most enduring tales. This book is more than an academic study of mythology. It's a guide to understanding our own lives. We are all on a hero's journey, facing challenges, setbacks, and moments of transformation. Campbell argues that myths serve as roadmaps for personal growth, helping us navigate the uncertainties of existence. The archetypes he describes are not just literary devices. They reflect something fundamental about human nature, the way we interpret meaning, and how we evolve as individuals. Few books change the way you see not only stories, but life itself. The Hero with a Thousand Faces does just that. It forces you to recognize the patterns in your own journey and compels you to embrace transformation, struggle, and self-discovery. Once you see the world through Campbell's lens, you'll never look at myths, movies, or even your own experiences the same way again. The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. What happens when the mind no longer perceives reality as it should? The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, by Oliver Sacks, takes readers deep into the mysteries of the human brain, exploring bizarre and often heartbreaking neurological disorders that challenge our understanding of perception, identity, and consciousness. Through a series of real patient cases, Sacks reveals how damage to the brain can distort memory, strip away fundamental aspects of personality, and even alter the way a person experiences the world. The title itself refers to a man who, due to a rare neurological condition, could no longer recognize faces and objects correctly, mistaking his wife for a hat. But this is just one of many astonishing stories. There is a man who can no longer form new memories, a woman who suddenly loses all sense of her own body, and patients whose minds are trapped in perpetual repetition, reliving the same moments again and again. Sacks presents these cases not as medical curiosities, but as profound lessons on what it means to be human. Each disorder reveals the brain's astonishing complexity, and more importantly, how our sense of self is deeply tied to its intricate workings. Yet, for all the tragedy found in these cases, there is also resilience. Sacks does not merely document neurological failures. He celebrates the human spirit's ability to adapt. Some patients find ways to navigate their strange conditions, proving that identity is more than just neural pathways. It is something that persists, even when the brain betrays us. This book forces readers to question the nature of reality, the fragility of the mind, and the very foundations of selfhood. It is not just a collection of medical mysteries. It is an exploration of what makes us who we are. Quantum Enigma. What if reality isn't as solid as it seems? Quantum Enigma by Bruce Rosenblum and Fred Kuttner takes you to the heart of one of the greatest mysteries in science, the bizarre, mind-bending nature of quantum mechanics. More than just equations and experiments, this book forces you to confront a truth that defies common sense. The mere act of observation alters reality itself. At the core of this enigma lies the famous double-slit experiment in which particles behave like waves when unobserved but like solid objects when measured. This isn't just an abstract puzzle for physicists. It suggests that consciousness and physical reality are somehow entangled in a way we don't yet understand. Could the mind play a fundamental role in shaping the universe? That's the disturbing, exhilarating possibility that Quantum Enigma dares to explore. The authors, both physicists, present the science in a clear, compelling way, while refusing to brush aside the deeper implications. If quantum mechanics governs everything at the smallest level, does it hint at something deeper about human consciousness? Does it challenge the idea of an objective reality? These questions go beyond physics, touching philosophy, free will, and even the nature of existence itself. This book doesn't offer easy answers, but it forces you to see the universe differently. If the foundations of reality are this strange, what does that mean for us? Quantum Enigma is more than just a book. It's an invitation to step beyond the limits of ordinary thinking and embrace the true, unsettling nature of the cosmos. The body keeps the score. Imagine carrying an invisible wound, one that doesn't heal with time but lingers in the body, reshaping the way you think, feel, and experience the world. The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel. Van der Kolk is a revolutionary exploration of trauma, revealing how deeply past suffering imprints itself on the mind and body. Trauma isn't just a memory. It's a living force that alters brain function, disrupts emotions, and even rewires the nervous system. For those who have endured abuse, war, neglect, or loss, the scars don't just exist in the past. They manifest in anxiety, depression, chronic pain, and self-destructive behaviors. Van der Kolk, a leading psychiatrist in trauma research, takes readers on a journey through the latest neuroscience and psychological insights, exposing how traumatic experiences reshape the brain's fear circuitry, dull the ability to feel joy, and sever connections between the rational and emotional mind. He explores how traditional talk therapy often falls short in addressing these deeply ingrained wounds and introduces groundbreaking treatments that help trauma survivors reclaim their lives. From yoga and meditation to EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and neurofeedback, the book presents a new understanding of healing, one that engages both mind and body. More than just a study of trauma, The Body Keeps the Score is a guide to resilience. It illuminates the path toward recovery, proving that while trauma can trap people in cycles of pain, healing is possible. By bridging science, personal stories, and innovative therapies, this book challenges us to rethink mental health and recognize that the body itself holds the key to reclaiming peace. Once you understand how trauma reshapes the self, you will never look at human suffering or healing the same way again. The end of everything. The universe will not last forever. Every star, every galaxy, and every force that shapes reality is on borrowed time. In The End of Everything, astrophysicist Katie Mack takes us on a gripping journey to the ultimate fate of the cosmos, exploring the shocking ways it all might end. While we often marvel at the universe's vastness, this book asks a more unsettling question. How does it all disappear? Mack unpacks 5 scientifically plausible scenarios for the universe's demise, each more mind-bending than the last. Will everything be torn apart in a big rip as dark energy accelerates space to its breaking point? Will the cosmos slowly freeze in a heat death where all motion ceases and nothing interesting ever happens again? Perhaps the universe will collapse in a big crunch, only to be reborn in a cycle of endless destruction and creation. And then there's the most chilling possibility of all, vacuum decay, an unpredictable event that could erase everything in an instant, rewriting the very laws of physics. But The End of Everything is not a story of doom. It's a celebration of cosmic curiosity. By contemplating the end, we gain a deeper appreciation for the present, for the fleeting beauty of existence, and for the incredible fact that we are here to witness it at all. The universe may have an expiration date, but while it lasts, we have the privilege of understanding it. And once you glimpse reality through this perspective, your place in the cosmos will never feel the same again. The Varieties of Scientific Experience. Carl Sagan's The Varieties of Scientific Experience is a profound meditation on the intersection of science, philosophy, and the human search for meaning. It challenges us to confront the vastness of the cosmos, not with fear, but with a deep sense of wonder. If you've ever questioned humanity's place in the universe, this book will take you on a journey that reshapes your understanding of existence itself. At its heart, the book explores the tension between science and religion, arguing that true spirituality is not found in dogma, but in the awe-inspiring truths uncovered by scientific inquiry. Sagan dismantles our Earth-centric perspective, reminding us that we are a mere speck in an unfathomably large universe. Yet this realization should not diminish us. Instead, it should inspire humility, curiosity, and a commitment to reason over superstition. Through a sweeping exploration of astronomy, evolution, and the nature of intelligence, Sagan invites us to contemplate the possibility of extraterrestrial life, the fragility of our planet, and the ethical responsibility that comes with knowledge. He warns against the dangers of scientific illiteracy, emphasizing that only through rational thinking can humanity navigate the challenges ahead. But perhaps the book's greatest power lies in its ability to replace existential dread with cosmic perspective. It reminds us that science is not cold or impersonal, it is a deeply human pursuit, filled with wonder and beauty. It does not diminish the mystery of existence, but enriches it, offering a way to find meaning not in myths, but in the grandeur of reality itself. Once you see the universe through Sagan's eyes, the world will never feel small again. Meditations on First Philosophy. What if everything you believe, everything you see, hear, and feel was a lie? How can you be sure the world around you isn't just an illusion? Meditations on First Philosophy by René Descartes is one of the most groundbreaking works in the history of thought, stripping away every assumption to find a foundation of absolute certainty. With relentless skepticism, Descartes embarks on an intellectual journey that reshapes our understanding of reality, knowledge, and existence itself. At the core of this work is Descartes' method of doubt. He questions everything, his senses, his memories, even the existence of the physical world, because they can all be deceived. What if a powerful, malicious demon were manipulating his perceptions? Is there anything that cannot be doubted? From this radical skepticism, he arrives at a single, undeniable truth. Cogito, ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. No matter how much he doubts, he cannot doubt that he is thinking, and thus he must exist. This revelation becomes the bedrock upon which he rebuilds his understanding of reality. From this foundation, Descartes seeks to prove the existence of God and the separation between mind and body. He argues that our ability to conceive of perfection suggests the existence of a perfect being, and that our minds, capable of reason and introspection, must be distinct from the material world. His ideas gave rise to modern philosophy, influencing everything from science to artificial intelligence. But Meditations is more than an abstract exercise in logic. It's a personal, almost spiritual reckoning with the nature of human existence. Descartes forces us to confront the uncomfortable idea that much of what we assume to be true could be a deception, whether by our own minds or by some external force. Yet, through this radical skepticism, he finds a path to certainty, providing a method of rigorous thinking that remains profoundly influential. Whether or not one accepts his conclusions, engaging with Descartes' Meditations is like stepping into a mental battlefield, one where the stakes are nothing less than reality itself. The Botany of Desire. What if plants have shaped human civilization as much as we have shaped them? In The Botany of Desire, Michael Pollan challenges our traditional view of nature by revealing a strikingly reciprocal relationship between humans and plants. We often think of domestication as something we impose on the natural world. But what if apples, tulips, marijuana, and potatoes have used us just as much as we have used them? Pollan presents a compelling argument. Plants, through their evolutionary brilliance, have adapted to fulfill human desires, sweetness, beauty, intoxication, and control, ensuring their survival and expansion across the globe. Each chapter of the book explores one of these desires through the lens of a specific plant. The apple represents sweetness, tracing its journey from the wild forests of Kazakhstan to orchards worldwide, where its diversity has been tamed by human cultivation. The tulip embodies beauty, demonstrating how a single flower could incite economic hysteria in 17th century Holland. Marijuana represents intoxication, raising profound questions about why humans seek altered states and how plants have evolved potent chemical defenses that double as sources of human pleasure. Finally, the potato symbolizes control, illustrating how our dependence on monocultures, like the genetically uniform potato crops that led to the Irish famine, reveals the risks of manipulating nature too aggressively. This book transforms the way we see the natural world, showing that our relationship with plants is not one of simple dominance, but of deep interconnection. Pollan's insights force us to reconsider our place in nature, not as masters of it, but as co-evolutionary partners in a vast, intricate system. In The Botany of Desire, he reminds us that by shaping the plants we cultivate, we are also shaping ourselves, our diets, our economies, and even our consciousness. The mind of God. Is the universe the result of mere chance? Or is there an underlying order guiding its existence? The Mind of God by Paul Davies takes readers on a profound journey through science, philosophy, and theology to explore one of humanity's greatest questions. Does the universe have a purpose? Davies begins by examining the astonishing precision of the physical laws that govern reality. The fundamental constants of nature, such as gravity and electromagnetism, are so finely tuned that even the slightest variation would make life impossible. Is this precision the product of blind luck, or does it point to a deeper design? He explores theories from quantum mechanics, relativity, and cosmology, revealing how modern physics brushes against profound philosophical ideas. Could mathematics be the language of the cosmos? Do the laws of physics suggest a deeper intelligence, or is consciousness itself a fundamental part of reality? Unlike many books on science and religion, The Mind of God does not argue for a traditional deity. Instead, it challenges us to consider whether the universe possesses an intrinsic order that transcends human understanding. Davies engages with ideas from Einstein, Gödel, and Hawking, questioning whether our search for ultimate meaning is itself woven into the fabric of existence. This book will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about reality. It bridges the gap between scientific inquiry and existential wonder, pushing you to rethink the nature of existence itself. Whether you believe in a divine creator or a self-organizing cosmos, The Mind of God will challenge your perspective and expand your understanding of the universe in ways few books can. Thinking, Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman's. Thinking, Fast and Slow reveals a startling truth about our minds. We are not as rational as we think. Every decision we make, whether choosing a meal, making an investment, or even forming our beliefs, is influenced by two distinct thinking systems. System 1 is fast, intuitive, and emotional. It helps us react instantly, but often leads to errors. System 2, on the other hand, is slow, deliberate, and logical, yet it is lazy and easily influenced. Kahneman shows how these two systems interact, shaping our judgments in ways we rarely notice. Through decades of groundbreaking research, he exposes the cognitive biases that distort our perception, such as the availability heuristic, where we overestimate the importance of easily recalled information, and loss aversion, which makes us fear losses more than we value equivalent gains. These biases explain why we make impulsive choices, trust flawed memories, and fall for illusions of confidence. More importantly, they reveal why even experts and policymakers make irrational decisions with far-reaching consequences. But understanding these biases is not just an academic exercise, it is a profound tool for self-awareness. Once we recognize the hidden forces influencing our thoughts, we can make smarter financial choices, improve negotiations, and resist manipulative tactics in marketing and politics. The book challenges us to think more critically, question our assumptions, and slow down when it matters most. This is not just a book about psychology. It's a guide to seeing reality more clearly. By grasping how our minds truly work, we gain the power to make better decisions, avoid costly mistakes, and take control of our own thinking. From eternity to here, we live our lives bound by time, moving from past to future without ever questioning why it works that way. But what if time isn't as straightforward as it seems? What if the rules that govern our everyday experience are just a small piece of a much deeper mystery? Sean Carroll's From Eternity to Here unravels one of the biggest questions in physics. Why does time have a direction at all? At the heart of Carroll's exploration is the concept of entropy, the idea that disorder always increases. This simple principle, rooted in the second law of thermodynamics, explains why ice melts, why stars burn out, and why we can never truly reverse time. But the real question is, why did the universe begin in such a low entropy, highly ordered state? To answer this, Carroll dives into the nature of space-time, black holes, and even the possibility of parallel universes. Could our universe be just one bubble in an infinite multiverse? Could time itself emerge from deeper, timeless laws of physics? This book is more than just a lesson in cosmology. It is an invitation to rethink everything we assume about reality. If time is not as fixed as we believe, then our notions of past, present, and future are up for debate. The implications stretch beyond science, forcing us to reconsider our place in the grand unfolding of the cosmos. What if time isn't something we move through, but something we create through our understanding? After reading From Eternity to Here, you may never look at a ticking clock the same way again. Enlightenment Now. This book by Steven Pinker is a bold defense of progress in an age filled with cynicism and despair. At a time when the world feels increasingly chaotic, this book delivers a powerful message. Humanity is not in decline. We are living in the most prosperous, healthy, and peaceful era in history. With a vast array of data, Pinker dismantles the common belief that the world is getting worse, proving that Enlightenment values, reason, science, and humanism have steadily propelled civilization forward. The book spans a vast range of topics, from life expectancy and education to poverty reduction and technological advancement. Pinker demonstrates how, despite the headlines that suggest otherwise, violence is declining, diseases are being eradicated, and more people than ever before have access to knowledge and opportunity. He argues that these improvements are not accidents, but the direct result of rational thinking, liberal democracy, and scientific progress. Yet Enlightenment Now is not just about presenting hopeful statistics. It is a call to responsibility. Progress is not automatic, nor is it guaranteed. The forces of ignorance, tribalism, and anti-scientific thinking still threaten to undermine human advancement. Pinker warns against romanticizing the past and urges readers to embrace critical thinking, innovation, and evidence-based policies to ensure that progress continues. This book forces you to reconsider the way you view the world. It dismantles the illusion that humanity is doomed and replaces it with a compelling case for optimism, an optimism rooted not in blind faith, but in facts. Enlightenment Now is not just an argument for progress. It is a manifesto for those who believe in reason, truth, and the potential for a better world. Once you see the world through Pinker's lens, despair becomes harder to justify, and hope becomes an intellectual necessity. Flow. There are moments in life when time seems to disappear, when every action flows seamlessly into the next, and when we feel completely alive and immersed in what we're doing. This rare and elusive state, known as flow, is the key to deep fulfillment, creativity, and peak performance. In Flow, the psychology of optimal experience, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi explores the science behind this phenomenon and reveals how we can harness it to live richer, more meaningful lives. Flow occurs when we engage in activities that challenge us just enough to keep us fully focused, but not so much that they become overwhelming. Whether in sports, art, work, or even everyday tasks, this state brings a profound sense of enjoyment and mastery. The book details the conditions necessary for flow: clear goals, immediate feedback, and a balance between skill and challenge. When these elements align, we enter a state where self-consciousness fades, distractions disappear, and we perform at our highest potential. The implications are profound. By structuring our lives to create more opportunities for flow, we can cultivate happiness not through external rewards, but through the sheer joy of deep engagement. But flow is more than just a guide to personal fulfillment. Csikszentmihalyi challenges us to rethink our relationship with work, leisure, and even relationships. A life driven by passive consumption, endless scrolling, mindless entertainment, leaves us feeling empty. But when we actively shape our experiences, turning even ordinary moments into opportunities for deep engagement, life transforms. This book is a wake-up call. Happiness isn't something we find, but something we create through how we focus our attention. And once we master flow, we don't just live, we thrive. The Emperor's New Mind. Is the human mind just a biological computer, or is there something deeper, something beyond the reach of algorithms? In The Emperor's New Mind, physicist Roger Penrose challenges the dominant view that consciousness can be replicated by artificial intelligence, arguing instead that human thought operates on principles not yet understood by science. Penrose takes us on a journey through physics, mathematics, and philosophy, examining everything from Gödel's incompleteness theorems to the paradoxes of quantum mechanics. He argues that if consciousness were purely computational, it would be subject to the same logical limitations as machines. However, human intuition, creativity, and understanding seem to transcend these constraints, suggesting that something profoundly different is at play. At the heart of his argument lies quantum mechanics, particularly the mysterious nature of wave function collapse. Penrose speculates that the fundamental processes of consciousness might be tied to quantum effects occurring in the brain, an idea that remains controversial but deeply thought-provoking. If true, it would mean that the mind is not just a program running on the hardware of the brain, but something woven into the very fabric of reality itself. This book forces you to rethink the nature of thought, intelligence, and even free will. If Penrose is right, then AI may never truly replicate human consciousness, not because of technical limitations, but because the mind itself operates on principles we have yet to discover. The Emperor's New Mind isn't just a book about physics or philosophy. It's a challenge to everything we assume about what it means to be human. Why we sleep. What if the single most powerful tool for a healthier, sharper, and longer life was something you're neglecting every night? Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker is a groundbreaking exploration of one of the most mysterious, yet essential biological functions: sleep. In a world that glorifies productivity and late-night work, Walker makes a compelling case that sleep is not a luxury, but a biological necessity, as vital as food and water. The consequences of sleep deprivation are staggering, affecting everything from memory and emotional stability to immune function and lifespan. Walker reveals how sleep enhances learning, creativity, and problem-solving, while a lack of it increases the risk of heart disease, Alzheimer's, obesity, and even cancer. He explains the two main forces governing our sleep: the circadian rhythm, which aligns with the day-night cycle, and sleep pressure, which builds throughout the day. He also dives into the different sleep stages, particularly the critical roles of deep sleep and REM sleep in repairing the body and processing emotions. One of the book's most eye-opening insights is the effect of modern society on sleep. Artificial light, caffeine, and erratic schedules have dramatically reduced the amount and quality of rest we get. Walker warns that even minor sleep deficits accumulate over time, leading to irreversible cognitive and physical damage. He dismantles the myth that we can catch up on sleep, showing that lost sleep is lost forever. This book is more than a call to sleep longer. It is a wake-up call to rethink our priorities. It challenges us to see sleep as the foundation of our well-being, not an afterthought. After reading Why We Sleep, you'll never look at bedtime the same way again. Rare Earth. We assume the universe is brimming with intelligent life, that Earth is just one of many worlds where evolution has played out. But what if we're wrong? In Rare Earth, Peter Ward and Donald Brownlee argue that complex life may be far more uncommon than we think, perhaps so rare that we are utterly alone. The book challenges the idea that the cosmos should be teeming with civilizations, pointing to a series of extraordinary circumstances that made Earth uniquely habitable. A perfectly placed moon to stabilize our climate, a gas giant like Jupiter to shield us from cosmic collisions, a precise sequence of mass extinctions and evolutionary leaps. Even plate tectonics, which reshapes continents and cycles nutrients, may be an essential factor that most planets never develop. Ward and Brownlee's argument is both unsettling and awe-inspiring. If intelligent life is vanishingly rare, what does that say about our place in the universe? Are we a cosmic accident, a fragile exception in an otherwise barren void? Or does our uniqueness make existence even more meaningful? Rare Earth isn't just about astrobiology, it's a humbling reflection on the sheer improbability of our existence. If Earth is one of the only homes for intelligence in the universe, then every moment of life here becomes even more precious. In the vast silence of space, we may be the only ones who can truly appreciate it. The interpretation of dreams. Every night, as you close your eyes and drift into sleep, another world awakens, one filled with strange symbols, forgotten memories, and impossible realities. What if these dreams weren't just random images, but messages from the depths of your own mind? In the interpretation of dreams, Sigmund Freud unveils his groundbreaking theory that dreams are the hidden language of the unconscious, revealing desires, fears, and conflicts buried beneath our waking awareness. This book didn't just change how we view dreams, it revolutionized our understanding of the human psyche itself. Freud argues that dreams serve as a gateway to the unconscious, a realm where repressed thoughts and emotions find expression in disguised forms. He introduces the idea of wish fulfillment, suggesting that even the most bizarre dream imagery is rooted in unfulfilled desires, often stemming from childhood. Using detailed case studies, he deciphers dream symbols, showing how the mind reshapes forbidden impulses into cryptic narratives. He also outlines the mechanisms of dream work, condensation, displacement, and symbolic representation, demonstrating how the unconscious mind distorts raw emotions into surreal but meaningful stories. More than just a psychological theory, the interpretation of dreams is a bold exploration of what it means to be human. It challenges us to question how much of our behavior is dictated by forces beyond our awareness. By decoding our dreams, Freud believed, we could unlock the unconscious mind, bringing buried emotions to light and ultimately achieving deeper self-understanding. Whether or not you accept all of Freud's conclusions, his insights laid the foundation for modern psychology, shaping everything from therapy to art and literature. After reading this book, you may never see your dreams or yourself the same way again. The extended phenotype. What if genes don't just shape the bodies of the creatures that carry them, but also reach beyond shaping the world itself? In the extended phenotype, Richard Dawkins challenges our understanding of evolution by proposing a radical idea. An organism's phenotype, the physical expression of its genes, is not limited to its own body. Instead, it extends into the environment, influencing structures, behaviors, and even other creatures in ways that serve the survival of its genes. This perspective reshapes how we see life, from the tiniest parasites to the grand engineering of beaver dams. Dawkins builds on the gene-centered view of evolution, arguing that natural selection does not operate on individuals or species, but on genes themselves. These genes, in their relentless drive for survival and replication, express themselves not only through an organism's body, but through the modifications it makes to its surroundings. A spider's web, a bird's nest, even the way a parasite manipulates its host. These are not random acts of nature, but extensions of the genetic blueprint, honed over millions of years to maximize reproductive success. One of the book's most striking ideas is how this theory explains the eerie precision with which parasites alter host behavior. A parasitic worm that compels an ant to climb a blade of grass, making it easy prey for a grazing mammal, is not just an anomaly of nature. It is an example of a gene's influence stretching beyond the body of the parasite itself. These phenomena reveal that evolution's true unit of selection is not the organism, but the replicating gene, using all means necessary to ensure its continuity. The extended phenotype forces us to reconsider what it means to be an individual in the first place. If genes exert their power far beyond the bodies they inhabit, then life itself is a vast network of genetic influence, sculpting the world in ways we are only beginning to understand. The universe in a nutshell, the deepest secrets of the universe, black holes, time travel, extra dimensions, can be unraveled in the palm of your hand. In The Universe in a Nutshell, Stephen Hawking distills the cutting-edge theories of physics into a breathtaking journey through space, time, and the fundamental nature of reality itself. This book is not just an exploration of the cosmos, it is an invitation to rethink everything we thought we knew about existence. Hawking masterfully navigates the frontiers of modern physics, introducing concepts that stretch the limits of human imagination. He builds upon Einstein's theory of relativity and quantum mechanics, explaining how they collide in the extreme environments of black holes and the Big Bang. He discusses the possibility of parallel universes, higher dimensions beyond our perception, and even the tantalizing idea that time itself may not be as rigid as we believe. With clarity and wit, he walks us through the mind-bending implications of string theory, M theory, and the search for a theory of everything, a single, unifying framework that could explain the entirety of existence. Unlike traditional science books, The Universe in a Nutshell is filled with stunning illustrations that bring these abstract ideas to life, making it accessible even to those without a background in physics. Yet its impact goes far beyond the scientific. It challenges us to grapple with the vastness of the cosmos and our fleeting place within it. This book is a gateway to the deepest mysteries of the universe, offering a glimpse into the profound beauty and complexity of reality. Reading it is like standing at the edge of infinity, peering into a realm where the ordinary rules of existence no longer apply. It is a reminder that Despite our smallness, the human mind is capable of grasping the most extraordinary truths of the cosmos. Nicomachean Ethics. What does it mean to live a good life? In Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle embarks on one of the most profound explorations of human purpose, virtue, and happiness ever written. He doesn't offer rigid moral rules, but instead provides a guide for cultivating character, making wise choices, and achieving true fulfillment. At the heart of his philosophy is the concept of eudaimonia, often translated as flourishing or the highest good, which is not merely pleasure or wealth, but a deeply meaningful life rooted in virtue. Aristotle argues that virtue is not something we are born with, nor is it a set of abstract ideals. Instead, it is a habit, one that must be practiced through action and refined by reason. He introduces the golden mean, the idea that every virtue lies between two extremes. Courage, for example, is the balance between recklessness and cowardice. He believes that moral excellence is achieved by developing these virtues through experience, self-reflection, and a commitment to reason. Unlike fleeting pleasures, true happiness arises from living in alignment with our highest potential, continuously striving for wisdom and ethical integrity. But Aristotle does not stop at personal ethics. He sees human beings as inherently social creatures, arguing that a good life is not lived in isolation, but in a well-ordered society. Friendship, justice, and civic engagement are not just accessories to happiness, they are essential to it. By cultivating strong moral character and engaging in meaningful relationships, we create not only a better life for ourselves, but a better world for those around us. The Nicomachean Ethics is more than just philosophy. It is a roadmap for becoming the best version of ourselves. It challenges us to ask, what kind of person do I want to be? And more importantly, what kind of life is truly worth living? The sickness unto death. The worst kind of suffering may not be physical pain, but a sickness of the soul, one that most people don't even realize they have. In The Sickness Unto Death, Søren Kierkegaard argues that the greatest torment is not death itself, but despair, an internal, silent crisis that eats away at a person's very existence. Unlike a sickness of the body, this illness is far more insidious because it is rooted in the nature of selfhood itself. Kierkegaard sees the self as a tension between the finite and the infinite, the earthly and the eternal. To exist fully, one must properly relate to oneself and to God. But when this relationship is broken, despair emerges. He outlines different forms of despair. Some people are unaware they are in despair, living in ignorance or distraction. Others are painfully conscious of their condition, but feel powerless to change it. The deepest form of despair, however, is the rejection of one's true self, a refusal to align with the higher purpose of existence. This, he claims, is the ultimate sickness, the sickness unto death. Yet, there is a way out. Unlike the fatal despair Kierkegaard describes, the solution lies in embracing faith, not as blind obedience, but as the recognition of a deeper, transcendent truth. True freedom comes not from worldly success, nor from self-reliance, but from surrendering the ego and accepting one's dependence on something greater. Only then can a person reconcile their fragmented self and escape the abyss of despair. More than a philosophical treatise, The Sickness Unto Death is a haunting diagnosis of the modern soul. It forces us to confront an unsettling question. Are we truly living? Or are we merely avoiding the truth of who we are? The fabric of the cosmos. Everything you thought you knew about space, time, and reality might be incomplete, maybe even wrong. In The Fabric of the Cosmos, Brian Greene unravels the hidden nature of the universe, revealing a reality far stranger than common sense suggests. From the fluidity of time to the eerie possibility of parallel worlds, this book forces us to reconsider our most basic assumptions about existence itself. Greene explores the nature of space, not as an empty backdrop, but as an active, dynamic entity that can bend, ripple, and even vanish. Einstein's theory of relativity shattered the classical idea of time as fixed and universal, showing instead that it stretches and contracts depending on speed and gravity. But modern physics takes this even further. Quantum mechanics challenges the very fabric of cause and effect, with particles that can exist in multiple places at once or influence each other instantly across vast distances. The book also delves into one of the greatest mysteries in physics: the nature of time. If the laws of physics treat past, present, and future as equally real, why do we experience time as a one-way flow? Green investigates whether time is an illusion, a product of human perception, rather than an intrinsic feature of the universe. Meanwhile, string theory suggests that reality consists of far more than the three spatial dimensions we perceive. Hidden dimensions may hold the key to unifying all of physics. At its core, the fabric of the cosmos reveals that the universe is not just stranger than we imagine, but perhaps stranger than we can imagine. It challenges our grip on reality, forcing us to confront a cosmos that operates on principles more bizarre than any science fiction, except in this case, it's all real. The telltale brain. Everything that makes you you, your thoughts, your creativity, your sense of self, may be the result of hidden patterns firing within the folds of your brain. In The Telltale Brain, neuroscientist V.S. Ramachandran embarks on a fascinating journey into the human mind, revealing how our brains construct reality, generate emotions, and even give rise to the elusive concept of consciousness. Through groundbreaking research and captivating case studies, this book offers a radical new understanding of what it means to be human. At the heart of Ramachandran's work is the idea that the brain is a master of adaptation and illusion. He explores the strange and often unsettling world of neurological disorders: people who feel phantom limbs after amputation, patients who deny that one side of their body belongs to them, and individuals who experience mirror-touch synesthesia, physically feeling sensations that happen to others. These anomalies, far from being mere curiosities, expose the brain's hidden mechanisms. They show how perception is not a passive process, but an active construction, where the mind fills in gaps, makes assumptions, and crafts a seamless experience of the world. One of the book's most profound revelations is how our brains are wired for creativity and metaphor. Ramachandran delves into the neurological basis of art and aesthetics, explaining how certain visual patterns evoke deep, emotional responses. He also explores the evolutionary leap that allowed humans to develop language, self-awareness, and culture, abilities that set us apart from any other species. Reading The Telltale Brain is like stepping behind the curtain of reality itself, seeing the hidden machinery that governs every thought and feeling. It leaves you with a profound sense of wonder and an unsettling realization. The mind is both more fragile and more astonishingly powerful than we ever imagined. The structure of scientific revolutions. Science doesn't progress the way we think it does. In The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, Thomas Kuhn shatters the conventional view of scientific progress as a steady accumulation of knowledge. Instead, he argues that science moves through disruptive, paradigm-shifting revolutions that completely redefine how we see the world. These revolutions don't happen smoothly. They emerge when old theories break down, forcing a radical shift in thinking. Once you understand this, you'll never see science the same way again. Kuhn's key idea is the paradigm shift, a fundamental change in the basic assumptions of a scientific field. Normal science operates within an accepted framework, solving puzzles and refining existing theories. But when anomalies accumulate, when evidence no longer fits, the entire framework is questioned. Suddenly, what once seemed certain becomes obsolete, and a new paradigm takes its place. Think of how Copernicus replaced the Earth-centered universe, or how Einstein overturned Newtonian physics. These weren't just small adjustments, they were complete transformations in our understanding of reality. More unsettling is Kuhn's claim that scientific truth isn't discovered in a straightforward, objective manner. Instead, science is shaped by human perspectives, social influences, and historical contexts. A new paradigm isn't necessarily more true in an absolute sense. It simply becomes the new lens through which scientists interpret data. This means that what we consider truth is, in part, a product of our collective mindset, not just raw facts. The structure of scientific revolutions doesn't just change how we think about science, it changes how we think about knowledge itself. It forces us to question whether progress is as objective as we believe and reveals the deep, often invisible forces that shape the way we understand the world. Being and nothingness. What if the greatest burden of human existence is also its greatest freedom? In Being and Nothingness, Jean-Paul Sartre delivers a profound exploration of what it means to be human, what it means to exist in a world without predetermined meaning, where consciousness itself is both a gift and a curse. This book is not just a philosophical treatise, it is an existential awakening, forcing us to confront the unsettling reality that we are condemned to be free. Sartre argues that human existence is defined by a fundamental divide, being in itself and being for itself. Objects, like a rock or a chair, simply exist. They are what they are. But human beings are different. Our consciousness introduces a dimension of negation, of nothingness, allowing us to imagine possibilities beyond what we are in the present. This is both liberating and terrifying, because it means that we alone are responsible for shaping our identity. There is no external force, no divine plan to dictate who we must become. We are free, and that freedom is absolute. But with freedom comes anguish. We long for stability, for a fixed identity, yet every attempt to define ourselves through career, relationships, or social roles is ultimately a self-deception. Sartre calls this bad faith, the act of pretending we are bound by circumstances, denying our radical freedom. A waiter who insists he is just a waiter, a lover who clings to an unchanging idea of their partner, these are examples of people avoiding the burden of choice. By exposing the illusions we create to avoid responsibility, being and nothingness forces us to confront the raw truth of existence. It is an unsettling yet empowering realization. Life has no inherent meaning except for what we choose to give it. And in that void, in that nothingness, lies our greatest power, the power to become whoever we dare to be. The logic of scientific discovery. Everything you believe about scientific truth might be wrong. The logic of scientific discovery by Karl Popper challenges the very foundation of how we understand knowledge, offering a revolutionary approach to the philosophy of science. Rather than viewing science as a steady accumulation of proven facts, Popper argues that true scientific progress comes not from verification, but from falsification, the relentless testing of ideas to expose their weaknesses. This shift changes everything, redefining how we separate real science from mere speculation. At the heart of Popper's argument is the concept of falsifiability. A theory, no matter how elegant or widely accepted, is only scientific if it can be tested and potentially proven false. This principle directly opposes the classical view that science advances by accumulating evidence to confirm theories. Instead, Popper shows that the strength of a theory lies in its ability to withstand rigorous attempts to disprove it. This is why genuine scientific ideas evolve over time, not because they are proved right, but because weaker theories are continuously discarded in favor of stronger ones. Popper's ideas hold profound implications for fields beyond science. His philosophy dismantles dogmatic thinking and demands intellectual humility. It warns against blindly accepting ideas just because they seem to fit the evidence. In an age where misinformation spreads rapidly, Popper's method teaches us to question, test, and refine our understanding of reality rather than passively accepting what seems true. Ultimately, the logic of scientific discovery is not just about science, it's about thinking itself. It equips us with the tools to separate reason from ideology, skepticism from cynicism, and progress from illusion. To embrace Popper's philosophy is to embrace a world where truth is never final but always within reach, so long as we dare to challenge it. The Blind Watchmaker. If life is so complex, so intricately designed, how could it possibly emerge without a designer? This question has puzzled thinkers for centuries, but in The Blind Watchmaker, Richard Dawkins presents a compelling answer: evolution by natural selection. With striking clarity, he dismantles the illusion of purposeful creation, revealing that the breathtaking complexity of life arises not from a guiding hand, but from a mindless yet astonishingly effective process. Dawkins begins by challenging the idea that complexity requires intent. Many assume that intricate biological structures, like the eye or the wing, must have been consciously designed because their components work together with such precision. But evolution, he argues, builds complexity incrementally, step by step, through countless tiny variations. Each beneficial change is preserved and refined over generations, creating organisms that appear as if they were designed, yet without a designer. This process, acting over millions of years, is the blind watchmaker of nature. Using vivid examples, Dawkins illustrates how natural selection sculpts life in ways that seem almost magical. He explains how simple replicating molecules, through competition and gradual improvement, gave rise to the dazzling diversity of species we see today. He also tackles common misconceptions, such as the idea that evolution is random, clarifying that while mutations may be chance occurrences, selection itself is anything but random. Ultimately, the Blind Watchmaker reshapes how we see life itself. It replaces the comforting notion of intentional creation with something even more extraordinary, the realization that mindless natural forces, acting over vast stretches of time, can produce forms of unimaginable complexity. Evolution is not just a theory, it is the story of how everything that lives came to be, and in understanding it, we gain a deeper appreciation for the true marvel of existence. The Phenomenology of Spirit. Your entire understanding of reality, your sense of self, your beliefs, your perception of the world, is not a fixed truth, but a journey. In the Phenomenology of Spirit, G.W.F. Hegel takes us on a profound intellectual odyssey, showing that consciousness is not static, but unfolds through a dynamic process of self-discovery. This book is not just a work of philosophy, it is an invitation to witness the evolution of human thought itself, from the simplest awareness to the deepest self-realization. At the core of Hegel's masterpiece is the idea that knowledge and self-awareness emerge through struggle. He introduces the famous master-slave dialectic, a concept that reveals how identity is shaped by recognition from others. Two beings encounter each other, each seeking dominance. One submits, the other rules. But in doing so, the master ironically becomes dependent on the slave for validation. This tension is not just a social dynamic. It is a metaphor for the way all ideas and identities develop through contradiction and resolution. Hegel also presents the concept of the dialectic, a process where ideas collide, challenge each other, and give rise to something new. Every stage of consciousness contains its own limitations, and through confronting those limits, thought evolves. From sensory experience to reason, from morality to absolute knowledge, the journey of spirit is one of constant transformation. The self does not simply find truth, it must actively become it. Reading. The Phenomenology of Spirit is like watching the universe wake up to itself. It is a book that demands patience, but in return, it offers a vision of reality as a living, unfolding process, one in which every struggle, every contradiction, and every moment of doubt is not an obstacle, but a necessary step toward greater understanding. Practical ethics. Doing what feels right isn't always what's truly ethical. In Practical Ethics, Peter Singer forces us to confront some of the most difficult moral questions of our time, challenging assumptions about life, death, and our responsibilities toward others. His approach isn't based on tradition or emotion, but on a strict, logical framework that asks, how can we maximize well-being and minimize suffering? The answers are often unsettling, but they demand our attention. At the core of Singer's argument is utilitarianism, the idea that ethical decisions should be based on their consequences. He applies this principle to real-world issues, dismantling conventional morality with uncompromising logic. Should we prioritize human lives over animal suffering when we have no rational justification for doing so? Is it ethical to spend money on luxuries while millions starve? If we can prevent immense suffering with minimal personal sacrifice, are we morally obligated to do so? Singer doesn't just ask these questions. He answers them with a clarity that makes evasion nearly impossible. Perhaps most controversial is his discussion of life and death. Singer challenges deeply held beliefs about abortion, euthanasia, and the value of human life itself. Rather than accepting rigid moral doctrines, he urges us to evaluate each situation based on reason and compassion. His arguments are provocative, sometimes uncomfortable, but always deeply thought-provoking. Practical Ethics is not a book that offers easy answers. It's one that forces you to think differently about everything. It strips away sentimentality and exposes the raw logic of moral responsibility. If taken seriously, its ideas demand action, making it one of the rare books that doesn't just change how you think, it changes how you live. The demon-haunted world. Imagine living in a world where truth is indistinguishable from illusion, where superstition rules over reason, and where critical thinking is drowned out by fear and deception. In the demon-haunted world, Carl Sagan offers a beacon of clarity in an age of misinformation. urging us to embrace science as our best defense against ignorance and manipulation. This book is not just about science. It is about how to think, how to question, and how to navigate a world teeming with both wonders and falsehoods. Sagan explores the human tendency to believe in the irrational, from alien abductions to conspiracy theories, and explains why such beliefs persist, even in the face of contradictory evidence. He argues that our minds, wired for pattern recognition and storytelling, are vulnerable to deception. But rather than dismissing these tendencies outright, he seeks to understand them, showing how our fascination with the unknown can either lead us toward enlightenment or trap us in self-imposed illusions. At the heart of the book is the Baloney Detection Kit, a set of logical tools designed to help us separate fact from fiction. With simple yet powerful reasoning techniques, Sagan teaches us how to scrutinize claims, demand evidence, and resist the allure of pseudoscience. He champions skepticism, not as cynicism, but as a way to approach the world with curiosity, open-mindedness, and intellectual integrity. In an era where misinformation spreads faster than truth, the demon-haunted world remains more relevant than ever. Sagan's words remind us that science is more than just knowledge. It is a way of thinking, a method of survival, and perhaps our last, best hope for a future governed by reason rather than fear. The better angels of our nature. For most of human history, violence was an unavoidable part of life. Wars, executions, slavery, and cruelty were woven into the fabric of existence, seemingly as natural as the air we breathe. But what if the story of humanity is not one of unending brutality, but of remarkable progress toward peace? In The Better Angels of Our Nature, Steven Pinker presents a sweeping, deeply researched argument that violence has been steadily declining for centuries, contrary to what the news and popular perception might suggest. And more importantly, he explains why this decline has happened and what it means for our future. Drawing from history, psychology, and neuroscience, Pinker examines the forces that have driven humanity away from its violent past. He highlights 5 key historical shifts: the rise of organized states, the spread of commerce, the empowerment of women, the expansion of literacy, and the development of reason-based thinking. These forces, he argues, have led to a world in which wars are less frequent, murder rates have plummeted, and once common atrocities, such as public executions and slavery, are now nearly unthinkable. Pinker does not deny that violence still exists, nor does he suggest that progress is inevitable. But through extensive data and compelling historical narratives, he shows that the human capacity for empathy, cooperation, and rationality has played a critical role in shaping a more peaceful world. The book challenges deep-seated beliefs about human nature, offering a vision of history that is not just a record of suffering, but a testament to our ability to change. In a time when fear and pessimism dominate public discourse, The Better Angels of Our Nature forces us to step back and see the bigger picture. The trajectory of history is not one of despair, but of hope, a powerful reminder that our choices today can shape an even better tomorrow. The Brothers Karamazov. Few novels have captured the full spectrum of human nature as profoundly as The Brothers Karamazov. Dostoevsky's final masterpiece is not merely a story, it is a philosophical battlefield where faith and doubt, love and hatred, freedom and responsibility collide. It is a book that does not just ask questions, but forces the reader to grapple with them, unsettling even the firmest convictions. At its heart, the novel follows the lives of the Karamazov brothers, Dmitri, Ivan, and Alyosha, each representing a different facet of the human soul. Dmitri is driven by passion and impulse, Ivan by intellect and reason, and Alyosha by faith and compassion. Their father, the hedonistic and manipulative Fyodor Karamazov, is a man ruled by base desires, and his murder sets off a chain of events that brings these opposing forces into stark relief. Through this gripping family drama, Dostoevsky weaves profound meditations on morality, free will, and the existence of God. One of the novel's most famous passages, The Grand Inquisitor, presents a chilling argument about human nature's preference for security over freedom, challenging the foundations of religious belief. Meanwhile, Ivan's struggle with the problem of evil, how a just God could allow suffering, remains one of the most unsettling moral dilemmas in literature. Yet, amidst these weighty questions, the novel is also deeply human, filled with moments of redemption, suffering, and raw emotion that feel startlingly real. What makes the Brothers Karamazov truly life-changing is its refusal to offer simple answers. It forces the reader to wrestle with contradictions, to face the uncomfortable truths of existence, and ultimately, to seek meaning in a world that often feels beyond comprehension. It is not a book to be merely read. It is a book to be lived with, argued over, and revisited, its questions echoing long after the final page is turned. Collapse. Civilizations do not last forever. No matter how powerful, advanced, or seemingly indestructible, history has shown time and time again that societies can crumble, sometimes swiftly, sometimes over centuries, but always with consequences that reshape the world. In Collapse, How Societies Choose to Fail or Succeed, Jared Diamond embarks on an extraordinary journey through history to uncover the reasons why some civilizations thrive while others vanish. The lessons he uncovers are not just historical curiosities, they hold urgent relevance for the fate of our own world today. Diamond meticulously examines societies that fell into ruin, from the deforestation that doomed Easter Island to the soil erosion that undermined the Norse settlements of Greenland. He reveals patterns of environmental mismanagement, political short-sightedness, and social inequality that, when left unchecked, spelled catastrophe. But Collapse is not merely a story of doom, it is also a study of resilience. Diamond contrasts failed civilizations with those that adapted to crises, such as Japan's Edo period, where sustainable forestry saved the nation from ecological disaster. The key distinction: some societies made the right choices, others did not. A particularly haunting message emerges from the book. The greatest threats to civilization are often self-inflicted. Many societies failed not because of inevitable external forces, but because they ignored warning signs, overexploited resources, and clung to traditions that no longer served them. Sound familiar? Diamond warns that the same destructive patterns are at play today. Climate change, deforestation, water scarcity, and economic inequality all echo the mistakes of past civilizations. Collapse is more than history. It is a wake-up call. Diamond forces us to ask, will we be the next failed civilization, or will we learn from history before it is too late? The answer, he argues, is in our hands. Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Some journeys take you across landscapes, others take you deep into the mind. Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance is both. What begins as a simple road trip evolves into an exploration of philosophy, self-discovery, and the pursuit of meaning. Robert Pirsig's book is more than a travelogue. It is a meditation on how we engage with the world, how we define value, and how we reconcile the rational with the intuitive. At the core of this book is the concept of quality, a force that defies strict definition, yet permeates everything we do. Pirsig challenges the conventional divide between science and art, reason and feeling, and shows how true understanding comes from seeing them not as opposites, but as complementary ways of knowing. Through the lens of motorcycle maintenance, he reveals that even the most mechanical tasks can become acts of deep engagement if approached with care and presence. It is not just about fixing machines, it is about cultivating a way of life that finds beauty in precision and meaning in effort. Yet beneath its philosophical depth, the book is also a personal story of a father and son traveling together, of a man haunted by his past self, and of the human struggle to find coherence in a world that often feels divided. Pirsig's narrative pulls the reader into an intellectual adventure that is both thrilling and unsettling, forcing us to question how we think, what we value, and what it truly means to live well. Few books have the power to reshape one's perspective, but Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance does just that. It is a call to approach life with both thoughtfulness and passion, to see meaning where others see routine, and to embrace a philosophy that turns even the simplest acts into something profound. The Ancestor's Tale. Picture traveling back through time, not just centuries or millennia, but billions of years, retracing the steps of life itself to its very origins. The Ancestor's Tale, by Richard Dawkins, is no ordinary journey. Inspired by the Canterbury Tales, Dawkins leads us on a pilgrimage to meet our most ancient ancestors, unveiling the breathtaking story of evolution in reverse. With each step, we encounter the common ancestors we share with other species, from chimpanzees to fish to the first single-celled organisms that sparked the chain of life. At the heart of the book is a profound realization: all life on Earth is connected. Dawkins masterfully demonstrates how the vast diversity of species emerged from a single shared lineage, guided by the forces of natural selection. He explains the intricate genetic evidence that reveals the branching patterns of evolution, showing how even the most seemingly unrelated creatures are linked by common descent. Along the way, he dismantles common misconceptions about evolution, replacing them with an awe-inspiring vision of life as a vast, interwoven tapestry. But this book is not just about science. It is about perspective. It forces us to see ourselves not as the pinnacle of evolution, but as one fleeting moment in a story far older and more intricate than we can fully comprehend. The tale is not just about us, it is about the entire web of life, and how every organism, past and present, is part of the same grand narrative. By the end of this journey, the world looks different. A simple tree, a bird in flight, or even the microbes within us are no longer just living things, but echoes of an ancient past. The Ancestor's Tale reminds us that to understand who we are, we must first understand where we came from. A story written not in ink, but in the very fabric of our DNA. The Tao of Physics. For centuries, science and spirituality have been seen as opposing forces, one rooted in cold, hard logic, the other in mystery and intuition. But what if they were not so different after all? In the Tao of Physics, Fritjof Capra makes a bold and mesmerizing claim: the discoveries of modern physics echo the wisdom of ancient Eastern philosophy. This is not just a book about science or religion. It is about the fundamental nature of reality itself. Capra takes us on a journey through the strange and counterintuitive world of quantum mechanics and relativity, showing how the principles of modern physics, interconnectedness, paradox, and uncertainty mirror the teachings of Taoism, Buddhism, and Hinduism. He explains how subatomic particles do not exist as isolated entities, but as part of an inseparable web of relationships, much like the Buddhist concept of dependent origination. The dual nature of light, which behaves both as a wave and a particle, finds an eerie parallel in the yin-yang duality of Taoism. Even the elusive void at the heart of quantum theory resonates with the Buddhist notion of emptiness, not as nothingness, but as a space of infinite potential. But the Tao of Physics is more than just an intellectual exercise. It is a challenge to the way we see the world. Capra argues that the mechanistic, reductionist view of Western science is incomplete, missing the deep unity that both physicists and mystics describe in their own languages. His message is clear. To understand the cosmos, we must embrace both reason and intuition, logic and wisdom, science and spirit. This book is an invitation to see beyond rigid categories and open our minds to a deeper, more holistic reality. It dares us to consider that the universe is not just a machine, it is a dance, a rhythm, a living expression of something far greater than we ever imagined. The power of now. Your mind is constantly pulling you into the past, or pushing you toward the future, reliving old regrets, worrying about what's next, chasing happiness that always seems just out of reach. But what if everything you seek, peace, clarity, even enlightenment, has been within you all along, hidden in the one place you rarely look, the present moment? In The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle presents a radical yet simple truth. The key to a fulfilled life is learning to fully inhabit the now. Tolle argues that most suffering is not caused by external circumstances, but by our identification with the mind's endless stream of thoughts. We become trapped in narratives of fear, resentment, and longing, mistaking them for reality. By stepping back from this mental noise and observing it without attachment, we can break free from the grip of the ego, the false self that thrives on dissatisfaction and separation. The present moment, he explains, is the only reality that truly exists. Everything else, the past and future, is an illusion constructed by the mind. The book offers practical methods for awakening to this realization. Tolle emphasizes mindfulness, deep presence, and surrendering to what is, rather than resisting life as it unfolds. He describes how accessing this state of awareness dissolves anxiety, deepens relationships, and reveals an inner stillness that has always been there. He draws from spiritual traditions, but his message transcends religion. It is a universal guide to finding freedom from suffering. Reading The Power of Now is more than an intellectual exercise. It is an experience that challenges the way you perceive yourself and the world. If taken seriously, its insights have the potential to dismantle the very foundation of stress, fear, and self-doubt, leaving in their place a profound sense of peace and presence that cannot be shaken. The Stranger. What if life had no meaning, no grand purpose, no deeper reason for our existence? Would anything really change? The Stranger by Albert Camus is a haunting confrontation with the absurd, a story that forces us to question everything we assume about life, morality, and human nature. It follows Myth, an ordinary man whose indifference to the world unsettles those around him. He does not cry at his mother's funeral. He does not pretend to feel emotions he does not have. And when he commits a senseless act of violence, society does not just judge his crime, it judges his very existence. At its core, The Stranger is an exploration of the absurd, the idea that human beings search for meaning in a universe that offers none. Myth is not a villain, nor is he a hero. He simply is. He does not conform to societal expectations, and because of this, he becomes an outcast. His trial is less about his actions and more about his refusal to fake emotions, his unwillingness to pretend that life has meaning when he sees none. The world condemns him not because he is evil, but because he does not play by its unspoken rules. But The Stranger is not a book of despair. In the final moments before his execution, Myth reaches a profound acceptance of life as it is. Raw, meaningless, and yet strangely liberating. He realizes that without illusions, without false hope, he is truly free. His story is not just a rejection of meaning, but a defiant embrace of existence itself. Camus does not offer easy answers. He holds up a mirror and asks, "What do you see?" And perhaps the most unsettling part is that in Myth's indifference, in his raw and unfiltered view of the world, we might just catch a glimpse of ourselves. The mystery of consciousness. What is consciousness? It is the most intimate, undeniable fact of existence. We are aware, we think, we feel. Yet, despite centuries of philosophical inquiry and scientific progress, the nature of consciousness remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries. In The Mystery of Consciousness, John Searle takes on this profound enigma, challenging both materialist reductionism and mystical explanations, guiding the reader through the debate with precision, wit, and intellectual depth. At its core, the book seeks to answer a deceptively simple question: how can subjective experience arise from mere biological processes? Searle critiques the dominant theories of mind, from artificial intelligence advocates who claim consciousness is nothing more than complex computation, to dualists who argue that the mind is independent of the physical world. He dismantles the notion that consciousness is an illusion, asserting instead that it is an irreducible feature of reality, one that must be explained rather than dismissed. Through sharp reasoning and thought-provoking examples, Searle introduces his theory of biological naturalism, proposing that consciousness is both caused by and realized in the brain's physical structure. Much like liquidity, emerges from the molecular interactions of water. He rejects the idea that a machine, no matter how complex, could ever be truly conscious unless it possesses the same biological mechanisms as a living brain. The significance of the mystery of consciousness lies in its ability to reframe the debate, cutting through jargon and ideological biases to reveal the real questions at stake. It forces us to confront the limits of human understanding. Are we even capable of grasping the true nature of consciousness? Searle doesn't provide easy answers, but he leaves the reader with a deeper appreciation of the mind's complexities and the intellectual courage to keep questioning. The Prince. Power is rarely won by virtue alone. It is seized, maintained, and wielded with cunning, strategy, and sometimes ruthless pragmatism. The Prince, Machiavelli's infamous treatise on power, strips away the illusions of morality in politics and exposes the raw mechanics of leadership. Written during a time of political upheaval in Renaissance Italy, this book is not just a guide for rulers. It is a timeless examination of human nature, ambition, and the forces that shape history. Machiavelli does not concern himself with how leaders should behave, but with how they must behave to maintain control. He argues that a ruler cannot afford to be bound by conventional morality. Rather, they must be adaptable, feared when necessary, and willing to deceive when the situation demands it. He famously states that it is better to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both, because fear is a more reliable tool for maintaining power. He warns against excessive cruelty, but also against naive kindness, which can lead to downfall. Yet, The Prince is more than a handbook for tyranny. It is a brutally honest exploration of the harsh realities of governance, showing that power is not sustained by ideals alone, but by strategic action. Machiavelli champions the idea of political realism, the belief that effective leadership requires a deep understanding of both human psychology and the unpredictability of fate. He emphasizes the importance of appearing virtuous while being willing to act decisively behind the scenes. What makes The Prince so powerful is its unsettling relevance. Whether in politics, business, or daily life, Machiavelli's insights remain as sharp as ever. He forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about power, influence, and survival, challenging us to see the world not as we wish it to be, but as it truly is. The birth of tragedy. Why do we create art? What hidden forces drive the most profound expressions of human creativity? In The Birth of Tragedy, Friedrich Nietzsche offers a bold and revolutionary answer. Art emerges from the eternal struggle between two opposing forces, the Apollonian, representing order, reason, and harmony, and the Dionysian, embodying chaos, passion, and raw instinct. Through this lens, Nietzsche reinterprets the origins of Greek tragedy, revealing it as more than just entertainment, but as a powerful reflection of the human condition itself. Nietzsche argues that the greatest works of art arise from the balance of these two forces. The Apollonian provides structure, beauty, and clarity, while the Dionysian injects vitality, ecstasy, and the awareness of life's tragic nature. In ancient Greece, tragedy flourished because it embraced both, offering audiences a glimpse into the chaos of existence while still providing a sense of meaning. But Nietzsche laments that this delicate balance was lost, particularly with the rise of Socratic rationalism, which elevated reason above all else and suppressed the primal, life-affirming power of the Dionysian. This loss, Nietzsche contends, extends beyond art. It marks a fundamental shift in Western culture. By prioritizing reason at the expense of instinct, society has alienated itself from the deeper, more intuitive truths of existence. He suggests that reclaiming the Dionysian spirit is essential for rekindling the creative energy that gives life its fullest expression. Only by embracing both the ordered and the chaotic aspects of existence can humanity transcend the sterility of pure logic and rediscover the profound beauty of existence. At its core, The Birth of Tragedy is a call to reawaken the primal artistic spirit within us all. It challenges us to see art not as mere decoration, but as a vital force, one that holds the power to reconnect us with the deepest truths of life itself. The singularity is near. There is a moment in the future when everything will change, when human intelligence will merge with artificial intelligence, when biology will be rewritten by technology, and when the very nature of life itself will be transformed. In The Singularity is Near, futurist Ray Kurzweil presents a bold and meticulously reasoned vision of this coming revolution, arguing that we are racing toward an era of unimaginable progress, driven by the exponential growth of technology. At the heart of Kurzweil's argument is the idea that technological advancement is not linear, but accelerating. Computing power, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and nanotechnology are evolving at an ever faster pace, leading to a moment, the singularity, when machines will surpass human intelligence. But rather than viewing this as a dystopian nightmare, Kurzweil sees it as an opportunity, a future in which humans transcend biology, merging with AI to become something more than we ever thought possible. Immortality, limitless intelligence, and an existence unbound by traditional constraints may no longer be science fiction, but an inevitable next step. Kurzweil supports his claims with detailed projections and historical data, showing how past technological revolutions, from the printing press to the internet, were just early signs of this accelerating trend. He explores how AI will reshape industries, how nanobots could repair and enhance our bodies at the cellular level, and how brain-computer interfaces might allow human consciousness to exist beyond the biological brain. The book forces us to ask profound questions. What does it mean to be human? How will society adapt to intelligence beyond its control? And are we prepared for a world where the line between organic life and machine intelligence dissolves? More than a prediction, the singularity is near is a challenge to rethink the future. Not as something that will happen to us, but as something we have the power to shape. If Kurzweil is right, the choices we make today will determine whether we become obsolete or evolve into something greater than we ever imagined. The Analects. What does it mean to live a good life? How can one cultivate wisdom, virtue, and harmony in a world of chaos? The Analects, a collection of the teachings and conversations of Confucius, has guided philosophers, rulers, and ordinary people for over 2,000 years. More than just a historical text, it is a profound blueprint for ethical living, offering timeless lessons on morality, leadership, and self-cultivation. At its core, the Analects teaches that true wisdom is not found in abstract theories, but in the way we treat others, the discipline we cultivate within ourselves, and the sense of duty we uphold towards society. Confucius emphasizes the concept of Ren, a deep sense of humanness, compassion, and benevolence. He argues that virtue is not innate, but must be actively practiced through daily actions, from respecting one's parents to leading with integrity. Social harmony, he insists, does not come from rigid laws, but from individuals embodying moral excellence. In his view, a great leader does not rule through force, but through virtue, inspiring others to follow naturally. This idea of governance through moral example remains just as relevant in today's world, where power is too often wielded without responsibility. Yet the Analects is not just about leadership, it is about the inner life of the individual. Confucius teaches that wisdom begins with self-awareness. He warns against arrogance, encourages constant learning, and urges people to seek improvement rather than perfection. His words push us to ask, are we living with integrity? Are we fulfilling our responsibilities to others? Are we striving to be better than we were yesterday? Though written in ancient China, the wisdom of the Analects transcends time and culture. It reminds us that character is destiny and that true fulfillment is not found in wealth or power, but in the pursuit of virtue and understanding. The Black Swan. Imagine if everything you thought you knew about risk, prediction, and success was wrong. What if the most important events in history, those that shape economies, revolutions, and even your own life, were completely unpredictable? In The Black Swan, Nassim Nicholas Taleb dismantles our illusions of certainty, arguing that the most significant changes in the world are driven not by what we can foresee, but by rare, unexpected events that defy conventional wisdom. A black swan is an event that is highly improbable, massively impactful, and only seems obvious in hindsight. From the rise of the internet to financial crashes, from the 9/11 attacks to the emergence of billion-dollar companies, history is shaped not by steady, predictable progress, but by sudden, game-changing shocks. The problem? Humans are wired to see patterns, to believe we can anticipate the future based on the past. But in a world of randomness and complexity, our forecasts are little more than comforting illusions. Taleb exposes how experts, economists, and decision-makers routinely fail because they rely on flawed models that ignore these unpredictable shocks. Worse, we rewrite history after the fact, convincing ourselves that these events were inevitable. The reality, however, is far messier. He argues that instead of trying to predict black swans, we must learn how to survive and even thrive in a world dominated by uncertainty. This means embracing anti-fragility, building systems and mindsets that gain from disorder rather than being shattered by it. The Black Swan is more than a book about randomness. It is a call to change how we think about the world. It forces us to acknowledge the limits of knowledge, abandon false confidence, and prepare for the unexpected. In doing so, it doesn't just explain uncertainty, it teaches us how to live within it. The gene, an intimate history. What if the blueprint of who you are, your traits, your health, your very identity, was hidden within microscopic strands of information? The gene, An Intimate History by Siddhartha Mukherjee is a sweeping journey through the science of genetics, unraveling the profound forces that shape human life. From the earliest theories of inheritance to the cutting-edge breakthroughs of modern gene editing, this book explores not only the science behind our DNA, but also the ethical and philosophical questions it raises. Mukherjee traces the history of genetics back to Gregor Mendel's pea plant experiments, which first revealed patterns of inheritance. He then moves through the 20th century discoveries of DNA's structure and function, highlighting key moments like Watson and Crick's double helix model and the groundbreaking sequencing of the human genome. Yet this is not just a scientific chronicle, it is an intimate story, one that intertwines history with deeply personal reflections on mental illness in Mukherjee's own family, illustrating the complex and often unpredictable role genes play in human destiny. One of the book's most powerful ideas is how genes are not just passive carriers of information, but dynamic players in evolution, disease, and identity. Mukherjee explores how genetic mutations drive both diversity and disorder, how nature and nurture interact, and how the ability to manipulate genes raises profound moral dilemmas. With CRISPR and gene therapy now within reach, humanity stands on the brink of an era where we can rewrite the very code of life. But should we? The Gene is not just a book about biology, it is a reflection on what it means to be human. It forces us to confront the extraordinary power we wield over life itself and challenges us to consider the responsibility that comes with such knowledge. The wealth of nations. What makes a nation truly prosperous? Is it gold locked away in vaults, or is it something far more dynamic, something woven into the very fabric of human interactions? The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith is not just a book about economics, it is a revelation about how the world works. Written in 1776, yet still strikingly relevant today, this monumental work laid the foundation for capitalism and changed the way we understand markets, trade, and prosperity itself. At the heart of Smith's argument is the idea of the invisible hand, the notion that when individuals act in their own self-interest, they unintentionally contribute to the greater good of society. A baker does not provide bread out of charity, but because he wishes to earn a living. Yet in doing so, he feeds the community. This natural order, Smith argues, creates a self-regulating system where supply, demand, and competition drive efficiency and innovation. Unlike rigid, government-controlled economies, free markets encourage growth by allowing individuals the freedom to pursue their own success. But Smith does not advocate for unchecked greed. He warns of monopolies, corruption, and excessive government interference, all of which can strangle economic progress. He champions the division of labor, showing how specialization, each worker focusing on a specific task, leads to increased productivity and wealth. A pin factory, for instance, can produce far more when tasks are divided among workers, rather than attempted by one person alone. This principle, seemingly simple, underpins the explosive rise of industrial economies. More than 2 centuries later, The Wealth of Nations remains a cornerstone of economic thought. It is not just a book for economists. It is for anyone who wants to understand why some nations thrive while others struggle, and how human ingenuity, when set free, can shape the destiny of civilization itself. The Righteous Mind. Why do good people disagree so fiercely about politics, religion, and morality? Why do our moral convictions feel so obvious to us, yet utterly incomprehensible to those on the other side? In The Righteous Mind, social psychologist Jonathan Haidt unravels the deep psychological forces that shape human morality, revealing that our moral reasoning is not as rational as we like to believe. Instead of carefully weighing facts and logic, we are guided by instinctive, emotional responses, intuition first, reasoning second. Haidt introduces the concept of the moral foundations theory, which identifies 6 fundamental moral instincts: care, fairness, loyalty, authority, sanctity, and liberty. Liberals, conservatives, and libertarians do not just disagree on policies, they prioritize these moral values differently, leading to profound misunderstandings. Liberals emphasize care and fairness, focusing on harm and equality. Conservatives balance all 6 values, placing more weight on loyalty, authority, and sanctity. Libertarians, meanwhile, elevate liberty above all else, distrusting authority in favor of individual freedom. These moral matrices explain why political and ideological debates often feel like people speaking different moral languages. But Haidt goes even further, showing that our moral instincts are not just cultural, but deeply rooted in evolution. Morality did not emerge to help individuals seek truth. It evolved to strengthen group cohesion, helping societies survive. This tribal nature of morality means we are hardwired to favour our side and distrust outsiders, which fuels political polarisation and cultural divisions. Yet, by understanding this, we can begin to bridge the gaps that divide us. The Righteous Mind is not just a book about moral psychology. It is a blueprint for understanding human conflict. If we recognise the invisible forces shaping our moral judgments, we can step beyond blind partisanship and engage with others in a way that fosters true understanding rather than endless division. The moral landscape. Your entire understanding of morality, what is right, what is wrong, what makes a good life, may not be just a matter of opinion. In The Moral Landscape, neuroscientist Sam Harris argues that morality is not the domain of religion or philosophy alone, but something science can, and must, examine with the same precision as medicine or physics. If human well-being can be measured, then moral truth is not relative. It is something we can discover. Harris dismantles the common belief that morality is purely subjective, showing that human flourishing is grounded in measurable realities. Just as physical health depends on nutrition and biology, well-being depends on psychological and social conditions that science can study. He argues that some actions, policies, and cultures objectively promote human happiness, while others increase suffering. A society that values education, freedom, and human rights is not just better in an abstract sense, it is demonstrably superior to one that enforces oppression and ignorance. He introduces the idea of a moral landscape, where peaks represent societies or ways of living that maximize well-being, while valleys represent those that cause unnecessary suffering. The problem, he argues, is that religious dogma, moral relativism, and political ideology often blind us to these objective moral facts. Instead of relying on tradition or divine command, we should turn to evidence-based reasoning to determine the best ways to structure laws, policies, and social norms. By merging science and morality, the moral landscape forces us to reconsider the foundation of our ethical beliefs. If moral progress can be objectively measured, then it is not just an abstract goal, it is a responsibility. 21 lessons for the 21st century. What does it take to survive the 21st century? In a world where technology evolves at breakneck speed, where artificial intelligence, climate change, and geopolitical instability redefine the rules of existence, how do we make sense of it all? 21 Lessons for the 21st Century by Yuval Noah Harari is a piercing examination of the challenges that will shape our future. Unlike Sapiens, which looks at humanity's past, or Homo Deus, which speculates about the distant future, this book is a call to action for the present. It forces us to confront the defining issues of our time, from the rise of fake news and mass surveillance to the collapse of meaning in an era of automation. Harari organizes the book into 21 distinct lessons, covering politics, technology, war, religion, and education, among other pressing concerns. He warns that liberal democracy is no longer the unchallenged global force it once was, as nationalism and authoritarianism gain momentum. He argues that AI and biotechnology will not just reshape economies, but also redefine what it means to be human. With algorithms making more decisions on our behalf, will free will become obsolete? With machines replacing workers, what happens to economic stability? These are not distant possibilities. They are unfolding before us right now. Yet Harari is not just sounding the alarm. He offers a roadmap for navigating uncertainty. He emphasizes the importance of critical thinking, adaptability, and the ability to filter truth from misinformation. He challenges us to rethink outdated educational systems and embrace lifelong learning in a world where knowledge itself is constantly shifting. Above all, he argues that clarity, not blind optimism or fear, is our best weapon in an age of overwhelming complexity. In the end, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century is a wake-up call, urging us to engage with the forces shaping our world before they shape us. It does not offer easy answers, but it provides the intellectual tools needed to survive and perhaps even thrive in the decades ahead. The road to reality. What if the deepest secrets of the universe could be laid out before you, revealing an intricate web connecting the tiniest particles to the vast fabric of space-time? In The Road to Reality, renowned physicist Roger Penrose takes readers on a breathtaking journey through the mathematical foundations and physical laws that define our reality. This is not just a book about physics. It is an invitation to glimpse the profound structure of existence itself. Penrose begins by introducing the essential mathematical tools needed to navigate the cosmos, from complex numbers to manifolds and tensors. These are not just abstract concepts. They are the language of reality, the very framework through which we understand the universe. Building upon this foundation, he unpacks the great revolutions of modern physics: Einstein's relativity, the bizarre probabilities of quantum mechanics, and the deep conflicts that arise when these theories collide. He grapples with paradoxes that challenge our understanding, such as the incompatibility between the smoothness of spacetime and the uncertainty of quantum particles, and questions whether our current models are truly complete. What sets The Road to Reality apart is its fearless critique of mainstream physics. Penrose challenges widely accepted interpretations of quantum mechanics, proposing his own ideas on wave function collapse and even speculating on the role of consciousness in measurement. He explores alternative frameworks, including twistor theory, a mathematical approach he developed to rethink the fundamental nature of space and time. Unlike many popular science books, which simplify or speculate wildly, Penrose's work remains deeply rigorous, demanding intellectual engagement while rewarding readers with a richer, more nuanced understanding of the cosmos. For those willing to follow its challenging path, The Road to Reality is more than just an exploration of physics. It is an invitation to stand in awe of the mathematical harmony that governs the universe. The Myth of Sisyphus. Life offers no explanations, no grand design, no built-in purpose. So why do we keep going? The Myth of Sisyphus by Albert Camus is a fearless confrontation with this unsettling reality, forcing us to question whether existence itself is an act of defiance. Rather than offering comforting answers, Camus challenges us to stare into the void and decide for ourselves. Is life still worth living when stripped of illusions? At the heart of Camus's philosophy is the concept of the absurd, the fundamental contradiction between our relentless search for meaning and the universe's indifferent silence. Unlike other philosophers who attempt to resolve this tension through faith or reason, Camus insists that we must embrace it. To illustrate this, he turns to the Greek myth of Sisyphus, condemned to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity, only to watch it roll back down each time. His struggle is endless, devoid of victory or escape. But does that make his existence meaningless? Camus argues that Sisyphus is not a tragic figure, but a rebellious one. In accepting his fate without seeking false hope or resignation, he finds a strange form of liberation. He is fully aware of the absurdity of his condition, yet he chooses to persist. And in that persistence, he reclaims his freedom. One must imagine Sisyphus happy, Camus writes, not because his suffering is erased, but because he has embraced it without illusion. This philosophy extends beyond myth into our daily lives. We chase careers, relationships, ambitions, hoping they will provide lasting fulfillment. Yet time and again, we find ourselves in the same existential loop, pushing our own metaphorical boulders uphill. The absurd is not an abstract concept, it is the reality of being human. But instead of succumbing to despair, Camus challenges us to revolt, not through resignation or escape, but by living fully, without expecting the universe to justify itself. The Myth of Sisyphus is not a book of comfort. It is a book of defiance. It does not offer meaning, but demands that we create our own. In embracing the absurd, we reclaim our power. And in that moment of realization, existence is no longer a burden, it becomes a choice. The Master and His Emissary, the way we understand the world may be fundamentally broken. In The Master and His Emissary, Ian McGilchrist presents a groundbreaking exploration of the human brain and its far-reaching consequences for society. This is not just another book about left brain versus right brain. It is an urgent warning that civilization itself is being shaped, and perhaps distorted, by the dominance of one hemisphere over the other. McGilchrist argues that the brain is divided into two distinct modes of perception. The right hemisphere, the master, sees the world as a rich, interconnected whole, embracing nuance, meaning, and the complexity of human experience. The left hemisphere, the emissary, focuses on categorization, abstraction, and control, reducing reality to a set of manipulable parts. Both are essential, but something has gone terribly wrong. Over centuries, the left hemisphere has seized power, narrowing human vision, prioritizing efficiency over wisdom, and eroding our ability to engage with the world in a deeply meaningful way. This imbalance, McGilchrist suggests, is reflected everywhere. In modern science, which often reduces life to mechanical processes. In politics, which prioritizes rigid ideologies over human complexity. And in technology, which isolates us from lived experience. By overvaluing analysis and disregarding intuition, we have built a society that is increasingly fragmented, disconnected, and unable to grasp the full depth of existence. This is not just a theory, it is a call to awareness. Understanding the battle between these two ways of knowing may be the key to reclaiming a more balanced, meaningful life. The master and his emissary challenges us to see beyond our intellectual blind spots, urging us to restore the harmony that has been lost. The question is, will we listen before it's too late? The denial of death. We spend our lives building, striving, and searching for meaning, yet beneath it all lurks a truth we refuse to fully confront. We are going to die. In The Denial of Death, Ernest Becker delivers a staggering revelation. Human civilization itself is built on the unconscious fear of mortality. Every belief system, every ambition, and even our very sense of self is, in some way, an attempt to escape the unbearable awareness of our own impermanence. Becker argues that while we share a biological existence with animals, we are unique in our ability to reflect on our mortality. This awareness creates an unbearable contradiction. We are creatures who yearn for significance, yet we are finite, fragile, and destined to be forgotten. To cope, we construct symbolic worlds that promise transcendence. Whether through religion, art, nationhood, or even the pursuit of wealth and status, we seek ways to convince ourselves that we matter, that our existence has meaning beyond the grave. Yet this denial of death is both our greatest strength and our deepest flaw. It drives us to create, to achieve, to love, but it also fuels fanaticism, war, and a desperate need to prove that our chosen path is the correct one. Becker explores how human beings latch onto cultural immortality projects, attempts to outlive our physical selves through legacy, ideology, or heroism. The tragedy, however, is that no illusion can fully shield us from the truth. The more we deny death, the more it controls us. But if we accept this truth, what then? Becker does not offer easy comfort, but he does hint at a path forward. A life lived with courage, one where we acknowledge our insignificance, yet strive to create meaning anyway. Not as a shield against death, but as an act of defiance in the face of it. The age of surveillance capitalism. There was a time when our personal thoughts, habits, and desires were our own. That time is over. In the age of surveillance capitalism, Shoshana Zuboff exposes the hidden economic system that has transformed human experience into a raw material for profit. In this new age, the most valuable resource isn't oil or gold. It's you. Zuboff traces how tech giants, led by companies like Google and Facebook, pioneered a radical shift in capitalism. Unlike traditional businesses that profit by selling goods or services, surveillance capitalists extract behavioral data, your clicks, searches, locations, and even emotions, then use it to predict and manipulate your future actions. Every app, every website, and every smart device is a silent observer, feeding a system designed to control human behavior at scale. The book reveals how this new power dynamic has eroded privacy, freedom, and democracy itself. Companies no longer just respond to our needs, they shape them, nudging us toward decisions that maximize their profits. Algorithms determine what we see, what we buy, and even how we vote. The result is an invisible architecture of influence, one that exploits psychological vulnerabilities to keep us engaged, addicted, and predictable. Yet Zuboff argues, this is not an inevitable future. Surveillance capitalism is not a law of nature. It is a choice made by corporations and governments, one that can be challenged and reversed. But to do so, we must first recognize the reality we live in. This book is not just a warning, it is a wake-up call. It forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. In the digital age, freedom will not be lost in one sweeping moment. It will disappear click by click unless we fight to reclaim it. The information. Before humanity tamed fire, built cities, or sent rockets into space, we did something far more fundamental. We communicated. In The Information, James Gleick unravels the astonishing history of how information has shaped civilization, from the earliest spoken languages to the digital age that now defines our world. But this is not just a history of communication. It is the story of how information itself, as a measurable and powerful force, has transformed reality. Gleick begins by tracing the origins of language, writing, and the first methods of recording knowledge. From the invention of the alphabet to the printing press, each leap forward in communication has reshaped human thought, accelerating progress in ways our ancestors could never have imagined. But the book's most profound insight comes with the realization that information is not just something we create. It is a fundamental structure of the universe. Mathematics, genetics, quantum mechanics, and even consciousness itself can be understood as systems of information processing. One of the book's most striking revelations is how the modern world is built upon a hidden revolution, the rise of information theory. The work of Claude Shannon, the father of digital communication, introduced a new way of thinking about knowledge, reducing language, images, and even DNA to binary code. This breakthrough paved the way for computers, artificial intelligence, and the vast networks that now define our existence. Every message we send, every search we make, every decision we take is part of an invisible web of information that connects, influences, and shapes us in ways we barely comprehend. In the end, the information is not just about history. It is about what it means to live in an age where data is more abundant than ever. As we drown in an ocean of signals, the question is no longer how we communicate, but whether we truly understand the power of the information that now defines our reality. The sixth extinction, the greatest catastrophe in Earth's history, is not being caused by an asteroid, a supervolcano, or an ice age. It is being caused by us. The Sixth Extinction by Elizabeth Kolber is a sobering, meticulously researched account of how human activity is driving the planet toward an unprecedented biological crisis. Unlike the 5 previous mass extinctions, which wiped out vast swathes of life due to natural disasters, this one is unfolding at the hands of a single species, ours, and the consequences will be unlike anything the Earth has ever seen. Colbert takes the reader on a global journey, from the rainforests of the Amazon to the Great Barrier Reef, chronicling the decline of species in real time. She examines how climate change, habitat destruction, and ocean acidification are accelerating extinction rates to levels unseen in millions of years. Through gripping narratives, she introduces us to scientists on the front lines, uncovering chilling evidence that we are not just altering ecosystems, we are permanently rewriting the story of life itself. One of the book's most unsettling revelations is that even small disruptions can trigger cascading effects across entire ecosystems. Amphibians, once among the most resilient creatures on Earth, are vanishing due to an unstoppable fungal plague spread by human travel. Coral reefs, the cradles of marine biodiversity, are crumbling as the oceans absorb more carbon dioxide than they have in millions of years. Even species we take for granted, birds, insects, mammals, are disappearing at rates hundreds of times higher than normal. The pattern is undeniable. Human progress has become the driving force of destruction. Colbert does not offer false hope or easy solutions. Instead, she presents a stark, unflinching truth. We are shaping the future of the planet in ways we barely comprehend. Whether humanity will recognize its role in this crisis before it is too late remains an open question. But the sixth extinction leaves no doubt. This is a turning point in Earth's history, and we are the ones writing its next chapter. The vital question: life is not just a product of chemistry, it is shaped by energy. In The Vital Question, biochemist Nick Lane takes on one of the deepest mysteries in science: why life is the way it is. While we understand the building blocks of life, DNA, proteins, and cells, the question of how simple molecules first sparked into complex organisms remains unanswered. Lane argues that the key is energy, specifically the flow of energy that sustains life at its most fundamental level. At the heart of the book is a bold theory. Life emerged from deep-sea hydrothermal vents. where chemical gradients provided the energy needed to transform simple molecules into self-replicating life forms. More than just a new take on abiogenesis, Lane's argument explains why life on Earth evolved in the incredibly specific way it did, why cells have membranes, why complex life relies on mitochondria, and even why aging and death are inevitable. One of Lane's most profound insights is how energy flow dictated the transition from simple bacteria to the complex eukaryotic cells that make up all animals and plants. Unlike bacteria, which remained small and simple for billions of years, eukaryotes broke free from evolutionary stagnation due to their acquisition of mitochondria, tiny power plants that supercharged their metabolism and enabled the explosion of complexity. This energy revolution set the stage for everything from multicellular life to consciousness itself. The vital question doesn't just explain life, it reshapes our understanding of what life must be, both on Earth and beyond. If energy flow determines biology, then the search for extraterrestrial life must focus not just on water and chemistry, but on the conditions that allow energy to shape complexity. This book challenges everything we assume about existence, making us question not only how life began, but what it truly means to be alive. The order of time. Time feels like the one constant in our lives, unstoppable, universal, and absolute. But what if everything we believe about time is wrong? In The Order of Time, physicist Carlo Rovelli dismantles our deepest assumptions about time's nature, revealing a reality far stranger than we ever imagined. Rovelli takes us on a journey through Einstein's relativity and quantum mechanics, showing that time is not a rigid flow, but a shifting, fluid entity. A clock on a mountain runs faster than one in a valley. The distinction between past and future begins to blur. And at the most fundamental level of physics, time may not even exist in the way we experience it. But this book is not just about science. It's about how these discoveries reshape our understanding of existence. If time is not an absolute force, what does that mean for our memories, our choices, and the meaning we assign to our lives? Rovelli argues that time is not something external. It's something we create, a way of making sense of an ever-changing universe. Reading The Order of Time is like stepping outside the framework of reality itself. It challenges you to rethink not just time, but the way you experience every moment of your life. And once you grasp its revelations, the world and your place in it will never look the same again. The hidden reality. What if the universe you see, the stars, the galaxies, even the fabric of space and time, is just one of countless others? In The Hidden Reality, physicist Brian Greene takes us on a mind-expanding journey into the frontier of modern physics, where the concept of a multiverse is not just science fiction, but a serious possibility. If true, this idea would upend our very understanding of existence, forcing us to reconsider what it means to be part of reality itself. Greene explores multiple theories that suggest our universe may be just one among many. Some arise from the mathematics of quantum mechanics, where every possible outcome of an event could be realized in separate, branching universes. Others emerge from string theory, which posits extra spatial dimensions hidden beyond our perception, dimensions that could house entire parallel worlds. Cosmology, too, offers its own evidence. If space is infinite, then somewhere, far beyond our cosmic horizon, there may be an exact copy of you reading this very sentence. But the book does more than just present wild possibilities. It methodically walks through the science that makes them plausible. Greene explains how inflationary cosmology suggests endless universes bubbling into existence, and how holographic principles hint that our three-dimensional reality might be a mere projection of a deeper, underlying structure. Through clear and engaging language, he transforms mind-bending physics into an intellectual adventure, making us question the very nature of existence. If reality is far more vast and complex than we ever imagined, what does that mean for our place within it? The hidden reality invites us to step beyond the boundaries of what we once thought possible, challenging us to see the universe and ourselves in an entirely new way.